What if these things can read our minds?
This is a safe sex zone.
Simple, beautiful fish.
Good night, campers.
Turn on, tune in, talk movies. Welcome to the Video Cult.
It's analog synth, it's musical casting couch, it's the 70s rock opera you said you preferred just to be contrarian. Welcome to the Video Cult.
Swan. He has no other name. His past is a mystery, but his work is already a legend. Now he is looking for the new sound of the spheres to inaugurate his own Xanadu, his own Disneyland, the paradise, the ultimate rock palace.
Welcome back. Once again, just stepping right into the fray of strained cinema here at the Video Cult. I, of course, am Josh Carmody. I am joined, as always, by Nathan Stone.
Hello, cultists.
And we have someone else who we're making drink the Kool-Aid today. Somebody who has been mentioned on the podcast before because of her incessant reminding me of being from Winnipeg.
You hush.
We have Carrie Coffin.
Hello, it is I, Winnipeg girl.
And you also picked the movie.
I did.
This week. Do you want to say anything about yourself or what you've been doing the last week or so, just to let people in on who you are?
So my real job right now is that I'm a massage therapist and a massage therapy teacher. So this last week has been me proctoring exams for a bunch of frantic massage therapy students. That's basically what my week has been.
Yes, the perfect job to have apply all of the knowledge to bad movies too.
Yes.
Is massage therapy if you take it as a program, is it a high stress program? Because I feel like if anything shouldn't be high stress, it's massage therapy, but I feel like it's going to be really high stress. You're going to tell me.
This program, we call it the divorce maker.
Oh my.
Almost no one who starts off married into the program ends the program married.
And why is that? Is it because all the touching?
So stressful. It might be all the touching. I've never really figured that out because a lot of them don't really talk about their partners after a while. Like they just stop talking about them and they just kind of go away. But it could be with that, and it could just be that, so school starts at 9 a.m, but 2 or 3 days a week, it depends, after the first semester, you got to do evening work where you're like in the massage clinic and you're massaging the public, right? So you're there for hours. You're there till 8 or later.
Wow.
And so when you get home, you have to do your laundry and you have to do your homework, and it is a very homework intensive program if you really want to pass it.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Oh. So it is, I find that the people who do the best stress-wise are the people who don't have to have a job during school and don't have a partner.
Oh, that was definitely my experience for most of school, was just not having a job. I mean, both times I tried to go to university and failed, I was also trying to support myself in some other way.
Yeah.
And it was awful. It was an awful experience. I was like, no, government, put me more in debt. Just put me deeper in debt so I don't have to work and I can finish school, which actually, tomorrow, as of recording this, we will be. Me and Nathan will be walking across the stage and shaking hands with the president of our college, and I am sorely tempted to tell him he does not know what the plot of Metropolis is, because I just spent the last week driving around the province of Nova Scotia and filming the live stream of other associated colleges' graduations. And in his speech, he talks about how technology is moving forward and how there's AI and how, people were worried about this even 100 years ago. And he's like, if you went to a movie theater in 1927, you probably would have bought a ticket to see a movie called Metropolis. That's about a robot that wants to take over the world with technology. That's not what that movie's about. The robot, I'll say it now, the robot was created by a guy whose wife died or whatever, so he's trying to make a sex robot that looks like her, And the guy who stole his wife and got her knocked up shows up, and he's like, hey, we're going to take your sex robot, make it look like the leader of the workers' union, and have her go in and foment insurrection or like sow dissent amongst them to make the workers' union implode from within. That's what that movie's about. And after hearing that speech 5 fucking times, and I'm soon to hear it a 6th, I'm really tempted to tell him that's what it is. But then again, I might just fucking get the fuck out of there.
Should write him a letter afterwards, after all the grads are done and he doesn't have any more speeches to do. P.S. Not what the movie's about.
Yeah, I think you need to Kanye him during the speech.
I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm gonna let you finish, but Metropolis, not about
not about a robot trying to take over the world. It's really not.
I gotta watch that movie though, because apparently the plot that you just described to me is wild, and I desperately want to see it.
It's a very good movie. And if you want, there's so many different versions of it because it's like a fucking pretty sure it's made by a German, so like the original one's like 9 hours long, but. Giorgio Moroder, the father of like synthetic electronic music, he took the movie in the 80s. He made his own soundtrack that's got Queen on it. It's got I can't remember. There's a bunch of other like great people from the 80s. And he redoes the soundtrack. He takes out the kind of the title cards that have the dialogue and puts it in subtitle form, and there's a bit of like color things added to it, and it's called Giorgio Moroder's Metropolis. It's definitely the version that's worth watching if it's like it is a silent film.
Yeah.
So getting into it, it is the one that I've watched the most and prefer, but it's still the same plot.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Speaking of something you have seen though,
Yes.
The Phantom of the Paradise. This. I'm going to give up a little bit of my final thoughts on this to say that I absolutely loved this movie. This movie kicks so much ass. Why did you pick it for us?
Okay, so it has a special little place in Winnipeg, in the hearts of people in Winnipeg.
Here it is. Here it comes.
I know. But for whom this movie was such a cult classic, it ran continuously in cinema for 4 months straight, whereas it flopped everywhere else. And then again, for the next 2 years, it ran more sporadically. And the soundtrack sold 20,000 copies in Winnipeg alone.
So this is the official movie of Winnipeg.
Yeah, pretty much. Somebody made what did he make? He made a documentary about it called The Phantom of Winnipeg. But there is like a fan club that started a festival in Winnipeg called Phantom Palooza. So I was like, all right, Josh is always going on about how like Winnipeg this and Winnipeg that. So fine, I'll bring you some Winnipeg. You want it, you got it.
I love how terrible I sound in that story. But yeah, it opened on Boxing Day in 1974.
Yeah.
And as I'm looking at here, it played continuously in local cinemas until 1976, or non-continuously, but it was pretty consistent. And even when they put in the IMAX theaters in the early 2000s, they would play it on that as well during kind of the 90s, 2000s. So it is a big movie for them. Oh, and the soundtrack album was certified gold, but only in Canada.
Yes.
Purely because of Winnipeg. That's pretty great.
I suppose we should get into the plot
God,
of
please,
Phantom of the Paradise. Let's hit this.
For a movie that I took surprisingly few notes on because I just kept getting caught up in it, and I would be sitting there going, "Oh, I probably should write some of this down." So I was just captivated by it and stuff. Yeah. Right off the bat, the opening narration that kind of starts us off in the movie, I immediately was like, I wrote down Twilight Zone Records. And I didn't check it until a few hours ago. That was Rod Serling doing the opening intro narration. Because I was like, this is really Twilight Zone-esque. And it is him. It's fucking Mr. Twilight Zone himself.
That's
Rod
fantastic.
Serling.
I had not put that together. I thought it sounded similar, but I would never have thought it was the same dude.
Yeah, I thought it was like, it was trying to be it, was what I thought it was doing. Because it's clear, I mean, the movie's trying to be a lot of different things.
A lot of things.
It's the Phantom of the Opera. It's Faust. It's the portrait of Dorian Gray for
somehow,
some reason.
Yeah.
and a little bit of Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Psycho, which makes sense Brian De Palma's obsessed with Hitchcock. And a lot of his movies. I haven't seen all of them. I have seen some of the kind of thrillers of the 80s. So Dress to Kill and Body Double. Body Double's a great movie if you've never seen it. But they're very Hitchcockian style thrillers in the way that they're shot, the subject matter, stuff like that. So it makes sense that he would do a Hitchcock reference right away.
Our intro tells us a little bit about Swan. Since he is our prime antagonist here, he will drive the action in the movie. And it makes him seem very impressive. I love the swirling dead bird that we're slowly...
I didn't listen to the fucking opening narration because I was trying to figure out what it was. My dumb ass just like, it's a plane. No, it's Superman.
Damn, it is a bird this time.
The logo of Death Records is this dead... I think it's like a sparrow. It seems like a common kind of songbirdy type of thing. And we will see this logo a lot in the movie, often superimposed, obviously, over other things.
Oh, yes.
Which is a lot of fun.
It was because they originally called it Swan Song Records, but there was a Led Zeppelin album or something, or there's something associated with Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was like, or they realized they couldn't use it. So that's why there's the superimposed times. But yeah, it's very, very obvious. Like, I was like, wouldn't it have been cheaper just to throw a sign in there? But then, it turns out it was a legal rights issue thing.
Yeah, it does seem a little strange because in a lot of other places, you do see like this huge swan logo in the background of so many shots.
That is why it's there's just certain ones they probably couldn't afford to do over.
So Swan is looking for the new sound of the spheres to open his paradise. Paradise being his club / recording studio. There's a lot of things that go on in the paradise.
There's a lot.
There's a lot to it.
I like
orgy club.
I mean, my initial thought when I was hearing it, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but there's a movie called The Apple, and it's another one of these kind of very out there musicals. The thing about The Apple is it's fucking terrible. And it all just sounds like deep track Meatloaf songs that aren't very good. But it has kind of a similar, there's a recording studio guy who's trying to do some magic shit with music at the base of it. So I just kept thinking it was like they were literally gonna like open the gates of hell or Eden or something with this place. But it was, well, we'll get into it. It was almost both deeper and not deeper at the same time, what truly came of it.
Yeah. So... we open on our first band, the Juicy Fruits, performing on stage. I don't think this is the Paradise. I think this is another club, but I wasn't 100% sure of that.
No, they're looking for the music to open the Paradise. So the Paradise is not...
I believe they're at what he calls the Swanage. Which
is
just his place.
Which is like his mansion, right?
Yeah, it's his original recording studio place. Okay,
because I was a little bit confused at that point of where we were, and I thought maybe they were at the Paradise, but it hadn't opened yet and that kind of thing. But then there was dancers in the background, so I was like, oh no, there's got to be...
I was confused too.
It's
because of that opening narration where where it kind of tells you some of the plot of the movie, and so I thought we were jumping in, but no, we're just being made aware.
We are also auditioning.
I love the dance moves for the Juicy Fruit, and people in the background. It's really funny because people are slow dancing to this, and it's really not a kind of a slow dance song at all.
It's kind of like a song from Grease.
Yeah,
I mean, they've clearly had this 1950s like kind of greaser, but also doo-wop band thing going on. So it's a very energetic song. But yeah, people seem to be like dancing to it like it's Smashing Pumpkins, just swaying in the background.
Winslow, we get our first shot of him plastering his name over the Juicy Fruits name outside on a thing, which I thought was really funny. And then back inside this club, the song doesn't really go off the rails at all, but one of the band members gets into a fight with a dude. Another one steals a woman's bra, and they still manage to completely harmonize, finish the song. One of the guys is holding a bra up. I mean, they're clearly the greatest band I've ever seen. I would see them in concert 100%.
It's one of those. It's one of the things that he does throughout this movie is that he diegetically uses theater and musical theater gags Like things that would happen on stage in a live production. He kind of uses those gags in the reality of the movie. So people that aren't actually involved in the show get sucked in that way. Like,
That's so often.
well, I wrote down backup rapists
Oh,
because,
good.
but he like really does not give that girl a chance to not have her bra stolen.
That's true.
And yeah, also getting into the fight as they're swapping off. Something that you didn't mention though is before they get into the fight or steal the bra, Buddy pulls out a joint this like almost the size of a fucking bowling pin and lights it and like forces the bass player and the guitar player to smoke from it, like mashing it into their mouths. Like,
I missed
carrot,
that 100%.
There's
so
much.
Yeah, so not a bowling pin. That's
Yeah.
too big, but it's like the size of a big carrot, and he's just like jamming it in their mouths and because he lights it off a buddy's cigarette, the bass player's cigarette.
There's so much forced drug use in this.
Oh
movie.
yeah, and they talk about the forced drug use
Yeah.
constantly.
Almost, in fact, right away.
Right after this,
during
yeah.
the scene, yeah.
Now, we shouldn't forget, too, that the lead singer takes out a giant knife and pretends to slit his stomach open
Yes.
and then writhes around on the floor, again, before finishing the song. What a performance.
Yeah,
and
really.
we'll see the guys from the Juicy Fruits again and again and again in this movie as different bands,
Yeah, just
which I thought
recycled.
was wonderful. I thought that was so much fun.
Again, going into the theater, the live show type thing, like it feels like something that was adapted from the stage. Because you look at something like Jesus Christ Superstar, hits you over the head with it, but it very blatantly is like, these are people putting on a show. And those things can be done really well to bring something from the stage into a movie, like a musical production, especially. And sometimes they don't get it. I know people like the producers, when the producers movie, the musical version, it's directed by the person who directed the stage show. So literally every shot is from like one side. There's no variety. There's no kind of dreamlike quality to it, and it's just you just filmed your stage production.
Yeah.
And so I like when they're able to kind of incorporate it into the reality of the movie and do weird stuff with the camera and have people play multiple people and you just accept it because of that, kind of agreement that you have with a live production.
The band recycled over and over also sort of seems to act like a Greek chorus for the movie.
Oh,
Where like
yeah,
a lot of the
okay.
things that they're singing is narration for what's happening almost. That's what I thought of them anyway, especially closer to the end, but we can talk about that later.
So the song ends. Swan does a slow clap from his hidden chamber. I love the fact that his desk is a giant golden record.
Oh, yes.
It's pretty fantastic.
My dumb ass at one point was like, it's a symbol. and then Carrie was like, I think it's a record because he owns a record label. Yeah. He's not a famous drummer.
We don't know. He might have been. He was a famous some kind of musical performer.
We also meet Philbin here as well, who is Swan's right-hand man. And Philbin's complaining about kind of a woman singer who got away. And she's, really big. And Swan's like, don't worry about it. Big today, forgotten tomorrow type of thing. He's
that
really
whole
nonplussed.
thing that he goes on about is, I'm pretty sure, is referencing The Godfather. Because there's a scene in The Godfather where the guy wants revenge because he sunk all this money into this young starlet that he was essentially grooming. He's like, I paid for all her singing lessons and I paid for her to go to this. And then what does she do? She like fucks this like other famous guy and runs off. It's pretty much the same thing. Just it's way more blatant because he literally says, he's just like, I took her to the singing lessons.
I fed her the drugs to get her through the road tours.
Shit, which was crazy. But yeah, I do feel like that was a direct reference to that.
That's clever. I hadn't put that together in my head. I'd seen The Godfather, but so long ago that it rings a bell. But
Same.
so during this scene where Philbin and Swan are talking, we see Winslow down on the stage in the background setting up his piano, and Winslow then takes to singing. Swan is just like, that's the sound. That's the sound we need. We don't need the guy, but that's the music. And the camera circles Winslow's piano like a shark for probably like a minute and a half. It seems like a long time.
It does go on for a while.
Basically his whole song almost.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I guess
It cuts back and forth, but it does. Yeah. It is like that's kind of their one thing. Is they're like, we've got a crane, we got a giant room, let's circle them.
Winslow here, his song involves the idea of selling one's soul, and that's a big theme of this movie, as we've already kind of hit on. There are so many Faustian bargains in this movie.
Oh yeah,
at least 3, and so again, the music kind of sets up the rest of the action. I actually loved the music in this movie. I don't know, how did you guys feel about? I thought it was all pretty good.
Yeah, I loved it a lot. I have watched this a couple of times before, and I didn't remember how good the music was, to be honest. I thought I was springing a terrible musical on the two of you, but it was more than that. So
yeah. Once we get to Jessica Harper, who plays Phoenix, and her
God.
stuff, she is legitimately like
She's got
yeah.
a
really
She
good.
has a voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of what you were expecting. I was expecting the Apple. I was expecting kind of a C tier, like, okay, you know, it's like I was expecting passable songs, but the production design of the movie to really carry it through.
Yeah.
So when the music is like actually quite good, it caught me off guard. And I do like the music, but I think because it's more of a rock opera where they talk in between as opposed to singing their way to the next kind of number, the music does blend together. So there's if you try to compare it to something like Rocky Horror Picture Show, where the songs are all able to sound very distinctive of each other as these individual numbers, it's harder to pick out which song is which. But I think that it's better compared to something like Repo the Genetic Opera, where you probably could remember as many distinctive songs from Repo as you could from this, because it is more of a rock opera. But yeah, I did like the music.
One of the things that I was trying to figure out as the camera is circling Dime Store James Spader on the piano there.
I said Warren Zevon. I was like,
Oh,
Warren
nice.
Zevon's gonna save the world and open the paradise.
But the thing I was trying to figure out is he's playing the piano. No one else knows his music. Who's playing the organ? There wasn't one anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who's playing it?
Yeah, I didn't catch that. That's quite good. There's times in this movie later on where we'll see the singer, and especially it happens with Beef later on, where he's singing and then he'll stop singing and you're just like, but I still hear his voice. Like he gave his microphone to someone else 20 minutes ago. This is weird, but I didn't catch the organ thing. In the background of this scene, I think it's really funny because everyone's just kind of going on with their day, right? Like there's people walking past and
sweeping the
stuff.
floor.
There's
Yeah.
he's kind of all by himself. It sounds like what he has done here is kind of snuck in with his piano, because they mention that they're kind of between sets. There's like 20 minutes between sets. And I really thought that was really funny, because I wanted to know, did he know there was a piano there? Did he sneak in the piano?
Oh, he
Because
snuck it in.
He is actually, by the time this movie really gets going, he's able to get pretty much anywhere whenever. He gets really good at just getting places. So this is kind of a preview of that power, I think.
Yeah, that could be when what's his name? Philbin is talking to Swan there, and they're talking about that girl, the Godfather-y thing.
Yeah.
In the background, super out of focus, you can actually see Winslow pushing a piano into the stage. So I'm pretty sure he just dragged it in from outside. Like
Dedication.
I know.
Dedication. Now,
Oh, who's the fuck? Yeah, who's the right hand man guy again?
Philbin.
Philbin. It took me a minute to realize, but his necklace is a little cartoon tie. That's what
Oh, I
his
didn't
fucking
notice that.
necklace is. Yeah, I made a note of that.
Philbin, in our next scene, meets Winslow, I think backstage, is what it seems like, after the song. I got caught up on Winslow's sweater, which is a balding man in glasses scratching his head, and I thought that was really cool.
I did not even notice.
Yeah.
this
I was trying to
at
figure out
all.
who it was.
This was when I was noticing the tie necklace, so I was fascinated with that. And you guys were noticing
I was on the sweater.
Because Winslow also loses his fucking shit in this scene.
He
So
sure
it's
does.
like, I love that, like, we get a fall from grace later. He already was a little off to start out with. But I guess that goes in with the Phantom of the Opera stuff, because a lot of the opening downfall of him is very similar to the Claude Rains version of the Phantom of the Opera movie from like 1950 or the late 40s, where it has that where he's he isn't famous, he's writing this concerto or whatever it is of some kind, and they try to take it from him and gets hurt. So I find they were drawing a lot from that version of Phantom of the Opera than probably any others.
Philbin approaches Winslow about his song.
Yeah.
Winslow has what looks to be about 600 pages here. And this is where we're introduced to his...
And it's not done. He also says...
Why don't you give us just 2 or 3 of the really good up numbers?
2 or 3 up number? You don't understand. The scope of this cantata is 200 or 300 pages long, and I haven't finished yet.
Yeah, because
cantata.
Buddy's like, no, just give me like 2 or 3 of the good songs, and I'll fuck off, and we'll see if we want to do it. And he's like, no, you don't understand. You have to do the whole thing. He's like that guy that's just like, no, you can't just listen to one song. We have to sit. No, we're sitting down. We're listening to the whole album right now, both sides.
You need the full experience. Yeah, you won't get it otherwise.
You can't pick apart Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. You have to listen to both albums.
Oh my god.
So for any dummies out there like me, I am the least cultured person in the world. So I looked up cantata because I understood it. In the general sense, but it's
I know it's many pages of music.
It's a musical composition intended to be sung, as opposed to a sonata, which is a composition played instrumentally. So if you ever wanted to know the difference between those two things, that's what it is. And Winslow's written a big fat one,
tied together with string,
and it's only, I think, the second largest stack of papers that we'll see in this movie, though, because once we get to the contracts, they're a contender as well.
It's true.
And so it's about Faust, and Philbin just is like, hey, just give me the hits, right? Give me something upbeat, give me something good. And Winslow immediately, not immediately, because Philbin mentions the Juicy Fruits performing some of his songs.
Yeah.
And this is what causes Winslow to freak out, because he hates the Juicy Fruits.
I'm not going to let my music be mutilated by those grease balls.
I don't know why, because they're clearly the greatest band ever. But, whatever. And so he freaks out about that. Then we get quite a jump cut here, because it's a month later all of a sudden, and we see Winslow outside of the Death Records headquarters. Big gray featureless building somewhere. And he is going to... he goes up the stairs, goes to...
We get the first of a lot of shots. They love... he loves doing downward, like upward facing angles, or I should say, so things are shot from lower and looking up a lot in this movie, especially when they're going through the Death Records building where all the doors are like 4.5 feet tall.
So short.
So there's a lot of like almost... There's like a cartoon quality. I wrote down at one point that it's like this movie's mad. It's shot mad. It's just a madcap craziness to this movie the way it's shot.
It's and he's he goes to see. I love this scene. He stops at the Swan's secretary.
His gloved secretary.
Yeah, and she's got quite a look to her as well. I like that look. And so he asked the secretary about seeing Swan.
Mr. Philbin said Mr. Swan was going to call me about producing my first record. Mr. Philbin said he'd get right back to me. That was a month ago.
One moment, please.
She goes into this, I don't know if it's like a Rolodex file thing, and flips to his name.
Yeah.
And then you get this, and you'll see this font, because this font is goes kind of throughout the movie. Anything to deal with Swan and Death Records uses this font.
Oh, is this the Vegas font?
Yeah.
It's like, it looks like it has light bulbs on it.
A little,
yeah.
A little bit. And it just says never to be seen.
Yeah. Like he's so never to be seen that they printed individual letters on a sticker paper or something and stuck it to this page.
She didn't write that in there.
Yeah.
Like someone gave her that page and is like, yeah, never remove this from your Rolodex.
Yeah.
This is so important. And she doesn't even say anything to him either. She just reaches over and presses a big awooga alarm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then we do get something truly cartoonish when they have the they're running out in
It's a real Benny Hill vibe.
Yeah. It's the same frames per second in the Hindenburg crashing video, just like people running really fast.
They have like a spinning door chase. Where
They do have a spinning door chase.
A couple of times and then finally runs away.
This is funny because it kind of starts this thing where Winslow just doesn't get it for a while.
Oh yeah.
That Swan has ripped him off, right? And he keeps trying. So he sees he gets out of the building and away from security, and he sees Swan's car drive off from the headquarters. And so he hops in a taxi, immediately follow that car kind of deal. They arrive at Swanage, which I had to look up because they say it a number of times in the movie, but I kept going, what? What? The cab pulls up, Swan goes in, but the cab pulls up kind of on the street beside it. Gets out, he sees that there's numerous security guards, so he goes 10 feet to the left of where they all are, and there's a big stone wall that he hops over to get into the mansion. And when he's inside, we get immediately hundreds of women lined up on this big kind of winding staircase, all singing various different parts of his cantata.
Yeah.
And
in various different styles.
There's
a very 1920s style person singing it that stood out to me right away. She was very loud.
So he is able, however, to single out one woman in particular. And this is where we get to meet Phoenix.
Which will make sense later.
It will make
and
sense
she
later.
does actually stand out from the crowd. I mean, I don't know if anybody else in that lineup was any real singers or if it is just a put on of how terrible could everyone be around her. But then we get her, and she's a very, I guess, I don't want to say Debbie Harry, but maybe a Bonnie Raitt. Kind of singer. Maybe, am I using? I don't. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else that I can't think of the name of. But I'm just I'm doing the dad or the parent thing. What's her face? But she's a very 70s woman singer, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. So he goes up to her and immediately is just you need to sing this again, and he goes through it with her. And she's impressed that he knows all of the words to this song and knows kind of how it flows musically. And he's like, well, of course, I wrote it. I'm the composer. And she's like, oh, really? Why aren't you in there auditioning people? And he's like, I don't know. Winslow, as we see this character, is terminally naive.
Very, extremely naive.
I also like how your impression of Winslow sounds like John Mulaney.
We get to, so Phoenix asks him to help her get the part, right? She says, with your help, you wrote it. I'm sure I could get this part. And he is immediately, so he's smitten by her. I think kind of you can tell from the first part. And then she asks him, you're not just doing this to be nice, which I thought was an odd line because I think that's a very legitimate reason to do things for people is to be nice.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe she meant like that
to fuck.
Yeah. I see.
Which is
because
immediately
immediately after this, we see the person who went into audition right before her, they're pulling Swan off of her. They're just standing him up. Yeah. From sexually assaulting her, kick her out, and throw another girl down on the couch and throw him back down on top of her.
So, the
casting couch.
And but Winslow actually has a really good line here. One of my favorite of his lines in this movie, as a response to the "you're not just doing this to be nice." I would never let my personal desires influence my aesthetic judgment. Which I want to use in my personal life. I haven't found the means to do it yet, but there will be.
Oh, it's definitely coming.
Yeah,
I also love
Dee's going to get it at some point.
I love that she didn't know what the fuck it meant.
Yeah,
she's so confused.
What? What?
Yeah.
So when she said you're not just doing this to be nice, my thought wasn't that she thought he was trying to fuck. My thought was that she was asking if he was just taking pity on her.
Oh, okay.
Which is why when he
makes-
basically was like, I'd
makes
like to
more
fuck
sense.
you, but that's not why I'm doing it. And she was like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that does make more sense.
Yeah.
With the setting.
Yeah.
She seemed very, I don't know, ignorant of her vocal power and the fact that she was pretty.
Winslow and Phoenix start going up the stairs. They're calling in a bunch of girls. And Winslow gets immediately stopped by security. Because,
Who's this, your boyfriend?
Yeah.
Or whatever the fuck they say. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then he's like, no, I'm the composer. And then he tries to be like, I need to see Mr. Swan. And the security guard is just like, no, fuck off. And so she, Phoenix, before she goes in, she's like, oh, I'll just let him know you're here. Again, both of them a little naive here at the beginning. And so this is where we get the casting couch scene proper, where Phoenix goes in the room. You see, I think it's Philbin that's like getting off of a girl on the casting
pretty
couch.
sure.
And they just like two of the security guards and Philbin just like throw Phoenix onto the couch.
Yeah.
The doors slam shut. You hear a couple of screams. And watching this the first time, I was like, oh, like, is this gonna like, oh. And then the doors fly open.
Yeah,
and
it was pretty upsetting. I was glad that when she came out, she was just like, no, I wasn't going to do it that way. And I was like, okay, we're already laughing. It's already a joke about sexual assault. So I was like, let's get a little happy ending on this, please. But what was funnier was just that Winslow witnessed that and then immediately is just like, did my name come up?
Like when in the screaming did your name come up? Also, did you notice how very, very tiny the doors were?
I did.
They were very small.
Yeah.
Well, that was what I mentioned before, because all the doors are really short. And when they kind of show, and Winslow's super tall. I think that actor's got to be over 6 feet.
6'4".
He's
There's
he's a big boy, yeah.
He's
There's
huge.
no way
So
that guy doesn't have
the way
fans.
he has to like move through these doors and the tracking shots of like following him through them sometimes are really strange looking and stuff. But I'm assuming it's because Swan is very, very short.
Yes, but we haven't seen him yet. Oh, wait, yes.
Yeah.
We mostly see his hands.
I guess so. I mean, we would have seen him through the door just there, because that's who's getting thrown on to people. But I guess there really hasn't been anything to put his height in perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they really ever do throughout the movie, because I don't feel like that guy's 4'6".
Yeah, you do see him next to Winslow sometimes, and Winslow is kind of bending down at him, but he never strikes me as like tiny, right, Swan?
Yeah.
One of the things I'll mention about this scene, though, is that it kind of sets an expectation about Phoenix. I think that later in the movie gets subverted somewhat in that she doesn't really want to sleep her way to success, right? She wants to sing, she wants to think, and then that will there's kind of a left turn that comes later on in the movie with her character in that way, and kind of embracing some of that kind of seedier ways to succeed in the world, but. Just yet we're kind of given this more of an idea of her being kind of the more pure
characters
character.
are still innocent at this point. Like pre the 30-minute mark of this movie, most characters are, despite being in a cartoon world, mostly normal and innocent, and do have a level of naivete to them. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Kind of where they are now, but it is a tragedy. So we will everything gets fucked up.
Winslow at this point, so she storms off. Winslow approaches the security guards because again, he just doesn't make good
We
decisions.
have great costumes.
Costumes,
and again, going into that theater kind of thing, it's very thrown together. This is what you guys are going to be like. They got the like weird football guy, like black makeup under their eyes, to kind of make them look the same, but it feels very not cheap, but like theatrical in that low budget way.
And so they remove him. There's an interesting line about going to a department store. And I was kind of like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
I think because he when they first grab him, isn't that sort of his? It's like sort of a joke excuse Then he's like, "Oh, I was just looking for the department store." And they're like, "Okay, pal, yeah, we're gonna make sure you get there real fast." Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So we get another fun little cut here to a big pile of girls on what I want to call a circular bed thing, because I'm not really sure what it is.
It's got to be one of those 70s circle beds.
It's 100% that.
They were a thing.
It felt to me, I saw this and I was like, there should be a mechanical bull in the center, and that's like the crash mat, because that's what I was thinking of. Because there's also this, because the whole circular bed thing is within a larger square kind of container, but it all looks kind of padded.
Yeah.
And
honestly, a mechanical bull with those girls riding it would have been more sexual than what they did film.
Oh my god.
Because
it was so funny.
It's supposed to be this like lesbian, well, I say lesbian. They're supposed to be having sex with each other, and Swan is supposed to be watching as sort of what the conversation that's going on between them, as well as some of them being like, I don't know, I keep auditioning and I just keep ending up here. I don't seem to ever end up in the stage show, which was a really fucking good line.
Yeah.
Her delivery doing the Lord's work. Also some great hair from some of these girls. There was a girl with like a really big, not like she had really curly hair, but she had really big hair, and hers was probably the best. But yeah, they're like, we're supposed to be having sex with each other, but every time something like beyond a gentle touch of the face is about to happen, they go right off camera.
Yeah.
There is no girls kissing each other in this movie. So there's sort of always that. And we get probably my favorite line in the movie coming up, because as we see, Winslow has snuck in here in women's clothes, or he was thrown in here because of the...
Oh no, he snuck in drag. He's got a whole
he
purse.
did sneak in. I just remember he was taken away by the security guys, and then he snuck in drag, and then he's seen, and in the midst of this lesbian orgy, Swan's like, "Get that out of here," which was incredible. Just the juxtaposition of that level of duality.
Yeah, I do love the fact that Winslow was so somehow persuasive as a woman that he did nothing but put on a dress and hold a purse.
Yeah.
And was able to get in there. But again, he has these powers of just being able to get places when he really wants to get there. So
yeah. He's a sneakman.
Yeah. The security removes Winslow just by picking him up. He's just like a big sack of potatoes and carries him out. And then we get kind of the end of this scene is Swan just gets covered in women, like he's about to be devoured, right? They just engulf him, and they're chanting his name, and it seemed like a very occult thing. And there are certain, like the movie goes in a very supernatural direction in a little while, but that was kind of a neat scene.
Some of De Palma's inspiration, because it is Brian De Palma who wrote this, some of his inspiration for it was the end of the 60s going into the 70s, and he was noticing the attention that was starting to be put on the front man for bands, and the level of like kind of worship that was being associated with the front man was part of his inspiration for it. So there is cult like false idols and imagery like that in this and we also in this scene get the beginnings of that Swan films everything. There's mirrors and filming of everything, of all aspects of his life.
And you might think that Josh is speaking in hyperbole here, but he is not. Everything is filmed. We'll see this later in the movie.
Yes.
There are cameras everywhere. There are cameras on top of cameras on top of cameras here. And all of the cameras are huge film cameras, right? Like the security cameras, you can see on their cases, they have the humps for like film reel.
Yeah.
He keeps film reel security cameras. What a madman. I love it. But I love that design so much. Yeah, we'll see a lot more cameras coming up in a little bit here. And this is where things start to go really wrong for poor Winslow here. So the security works him over pretty hard, and they throw him in a bush outside of Swanage, the mansion, where he is found by two crooked cops. And the cops harass him a little bit, and then one of them takes his purse and puts a nice little baggie of smack, I believe, in there.
It's a condom of smack.
Like a condom of smack.
Oh, yes.
Okay, it looked kind of odd, so there we go, yeah.
Yeah, because they immediately come up to him. He's dressed like he's in women's clothing, so they're immediately like, "You pervert! You pervert! You put on a dress!"
Yeah.
And so then we get one of my favorite short scenes in the whole movie, before that, really, really good kind of setup here is that scene ends with, "Do you know what you could get for pushing in this state?" And then we get the immediate cut to the judge yelling "life" as he smacks the gavel. They're in a black space. There's a judge. There's a big American flag in the background. And then Winslow turns to the camera in utter horror. And it's honestly one of my favorite things in the whole movie. Just that scene.
But I'm innocent! Swan stole my music and framed me!
Yeah, it goes in with all the other shots that I really love, and I think that was about the moment. Yeah, that's about the moment I wrote down that it's mad. The movie itself is mad, and things like that, and it plays with the focus and the zoom during that shot as well, and it's just always so strange looking. There really isn't any boring shots in this movie, and the way they set things and the way that they don't need a full set. Like as you said, where it's like dark and stuff, it's always very interesting to look at.
Oh yeah, and it changes up so frequently, and like you say, how things are shot. What always got me about it was there wasn't any kind of, I think, overarching style in that it just kind of it flows in a weird and wonderful way. So I really enjoyed that. The movie then tells us that we're going to Sing Sing. We get a nice little shot of the island. We actually even get like a little title card.
Is that
for
a real
Sing Sing.
place?
Sing Sing is a real place. Yeah.
Okay, where was it?
It's New York, I believe.
It's a New York prison island.
I believe it's a New York prison island.
All right.
Because there's Rikers and I think there's Sing Sing, and I think those are the two kind of famous ones. And if I'm wrong, I'll look that up and apologize to the audience. So we transition to the warden's office. And at first I was like, what are these weird like knickknacks and kids' toys on his desk? But we'll see in a second here. And then we get one of the meanest, pettiest scenes in the movie. So Winslow's been voluntold for this dental health research program. And the warden's just like, teeth, hey? They're not so great. They can get infected, you know? So we're going to just take all of them out and replace them with some kind of metal dentures.
He doesn't even say that, though, does he? He just we're just going to pull all your teeth out.
Yeah.
For research.
Yeah, because I was expecting him to just be all gums when they showed him again. When they showed his, like, crazy... And they're not... And the thing that's weird about it is that whatever they put in his mouth to give him these metal teeth, they look smaller than regular teeth.
They do.
Like, they look shorter than regular teeth. They look strange. They don't look like they fit his mouth at all, which is weird because they would have had to put them over top. So whatever's going on there is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
The warden's name on his desk is V. Gross.
I did not catch that.
Very gross.
Very gross. So... What I loved about it was he's got these like false teeth, like these dentures in his hand while the warden has these in his hand while he's telling them about them. And it's, you just see the silver teeth. And I was just like, oh, this is awful. And my only note here was this is so cartoonishly villainous. Yes. Right? This is... and of course, the this dental health research program is brought to you by Swan Industries or whatever his his parent company is.
Jeff Bezos.
And then we fade to 6 months later. And this is a inmate factory on Sing Sing, and they're assembling board games.
Tiddlywinks.
Tiddlywinks,
specifically
in this case.
Tiddlywinks. I was looking at it because I was like trying to figure out what they were doing, and then they do show it.
I was paying too much attention to him, like standing in the corner with his teeth out.
But like they throw in the instructions, and there's multiple buckets of different colored tiddlywinks, and they just seem to indiscriminately throw a handful of different colors in there. Like, and I guess they got lots of them, but yeah, I was like, I don't know why my brain just like went into this mode where I was like, do they really expect these guys to count out the necessary 20 to 25 of each color? And I was like, Josh, you're thinking about this way too fucking hard.
Guard comes walking down the assembly line here, and he's got one of those old-timey portable radios that he's holding up to his ear, and this is talking about the opening of the Paradise. And it's happening this week, and we hear that the Juicy Fruits are going to perform Faust, a cantata, and Winslow...
which even without his reaction is a crazy thing to hear. If you heard it, it's just like, yeah, the Juicy Fruits will be performing Faust. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, really.
What?
Is he a surfer?
Yeah. So yeah, and then Winslow loses his fucking mind. I mean, he's already standing there. His hair's all short because he had like the long, as I said, he looked like Warren Zevon without a beard earlier in the movie. So the hair is completely chopped off. He's got crazy little metal teeth, and he's just grinding away, unblinking, staring forward. Finds out the Juicy Fruits are going to play it. Fucking loses it, gets into a huge fight. Tiddlywinks are going everywhere. That's my first thing. I was like, oh no, they're going to mix the colors.
You're so concerned about these games.
I'm really on about the Tiddler. I don't know why I'm so focused on it. It was just like, think about the fact that you would probably never buy a board game from like a Value Village because there might be one thing missing. We're really putting the trust into prisoners to assemble like a board game. Maybe they were doing that, and maybe that's where you get the stories of people getting something for Christmas back then in the 50s and 60s that just never lived up to the hype because it was missing the fucking pieces. It was prisoners that put together those Boba Fett toys. That's why kids never got the fucking missile.
So Josh, have you ever played Tiddlywinks? I gotta ask now.
I feel like it was definitely around. I don't know the rules, but I definitely remember it's something similar to Pogs. I feel like you're supposed to like have it on some, I don't know. I feel like when I played it was on carpet, but you're supposed to like take one of the tokens, the little circle pieces, and press down on the other ones to try and flip them.
Yeah, so players use a squidger to shoot a wink in flight by flicking the squidger across the top of a wink.
That's not English. Nothing you're saying is real. A squidger.
The squidger.
So is this British? Is this a British game, or is
it's absolutely? It must be. Only the British would come up with
it's that, or
much
it's Norwegian.
Nonsense. Yeah. So you're trying to send your own winks into the pot using the squidger.
Aren't we all?
It sounds like a game from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Shit in Harry Potter is real. A lot of times the words and shit she's using are real things. She just uses them. She just pretends like they're magical, and it's just dumbass British shit. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
I thought like prefects and head boy and all that shit was just like, oh, it's magic school. That's what every right-wing piece of shit send your kid away forever school is like in England.
Oh yeah, it's boarding school stuff.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that Tiddlywinks has been in production since 1888 and is still in production to this day.
Perfect. About as old as the Ouija board.
Yeah.
And it made a comeback in the 50s, apparently.
It is derived from British rhyming slang for an unlicensed public house or small inn.
Okay.
Yeah. So the more you know. This is now the Tiddlywinks podcast. We are pivoting on the spot. Okay, yeah. Oh God, I have lost the thread so hard here. So he attacks the guard.
Yeah, he attacks the guard.
Yeah.
Tiddlywinks go everywhere, and he escapes the prison.
He does though. He escapes the prison on a toy truck. Well, first he throws himself down a chute in a cardboard box.
Yes.
And then we just see a van, like a delivery van, driving, and it's clearly a rented van because it still has the rental van company name up on the top of it, but it has on the side of it the Sing Sing Toys like logo there. So I thought that was really
Which
funny.
is fucking crazy.
Yeah. So the box falls off of the truck, the back of the truck, and Winslow bursts out.
Which was perfect comedic timing as well,
Yeah.
I have to say. I don't remember if it was, I think it was sped up similar to the revolving door chase. But yeah, just the box like hitting the ground and him just bursting out of it was pretty fucking spectacular.
And he seems to do this in the middle of the street in, I think, the financial district of Manhattan.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
love the fact that this is just in broad
some
daylight.
straight up like Frankenstein's monster, like, like the way he's looking around and everybody
Still grinding his teeth.
And that's it. And I can't remember. Oh no, it's not yet, because later on he makes crazy sounds. But he's still just he's got this it's like Hunchback. It's not a Frankenstein's monster. It's like Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's very just like, oh no, they're seeing me. But yeah, like in broad daylight.
I have to say that his escape really reminded me of Metal Gear Solid and the mailroom boxes that you can hide under and scoot around in. So I had to put that in there.
Use CQC, Winslow. Use the CQC.
He returns to Death Records HQ and immediately starts going on a little bit of a rampage. Breaks a bunch of shit upstairs. Swan's not there. He goes and he knocks a bunch of stuff off the walls, and it's the album. Yes.
It's the album that's all been pressed. So there's all the boxes. So he starts destroying copies of the Juicy Fruits version of his music.
Yeah.
Is what he starts to destroy.
And he knocked over that crazy gold record desk.
And now this is another Winslow power that apparently needs no explanation, but I desperately want one. From his shirt produces, and I stopped to count, 8 sticks of dynamite wrapped together into a bomb. Which he plans to blow up the record press with.
I didn't even question it. I blew right past that. I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna destroy some shit. I just knew what he was there to do. I didn't even for a second think about where he got it from.
The Wile E. Coyote levels of dynamite that this man has.
He did mention that Faust was a magician who made a deal with the devil. And so he's doing all this magic shit.
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
Oh, that does, because he made a deal with the devil specifically for his music career, was it not?
Yeah.
Is that?
No, he's a magician. Magician, not a musician.
Yes. There is a version of Faust where he is a musician, though.
Okay.
It's. I think there's like an 1800s kind of rewrite that someone did to kind of modernize it to them times.
But the original Faust, he's a magician.
That's what he said. That's what Winslow was talking about.
I don't know. I'm asking.
No, it's one of those stories that like it's been around since the 1600s and has like 800 different versions that people have written on it.
Yeah, fair.
But, I did a little digging on it because I was like, I should be more up on the story of Faust to explain this movie a little bit. But
I'm pretty sure. I know I paid King's College $12,000 to tell me to read it, and I still didn't. John Mulaney.
Amazing.
Now, security arrives, and this kind of startles him. And Winslow gets his shirt caught on the press switch. But it's kind of just like, it's just hanging on there. So if he had lifted his arm up, he would have been fine. He does not do that. Instead, he slips on a record that's on the floor from one of the boxes that he knocked over and falls into the press, starting the press machine. His head is the only part of his body that gets pressed, but boy, does he get pressed.
He gets so pressed.
Mm-hmm. And he, the next, we hear the screams, of course.
Just before you go any further, I have some silly trivia about this record press.
Hit us up.
Please give us this. It's fucking incredible.
It is a real injection molding press from Pressman Toys. And the actor who played Winslow was worried that it wouldn't be safe. So the crew of the movie fitted it with foam pads that looked like the casting molds in the press. And wedges were put in it to stop it from closing all the way. But of course the machine was too powerful and crushed the wedges, and it kept closing on the actor's head while he was still in it. Like, clearly they pulled him out in time, but he was like almost actually crushed by this record press.
Yeah, and I love that, like, all the shots of it are kind of like close-ups where they could have just, like, sculpted something out of foam and did it.
Yes.
And, like, they could have easily done it without having to put his head in there.
Yeah.
But there was just some dudes that work around that machine, that factory all the time that were just like, no, you block, you chalk, you throw down some blocks. Yeah, that's not going to get through that. That's not going to get, no, not in a million years. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And then it does.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
continue.
And he runs, so he runs into the parking lot. He's covered in blood. He's holding his face. And he kind of bounces off each car in turn.
Yes.
Because, I don't think he can really see where he's going. Because
He doesn't
half of
have
his
depth
face is in
perception
ruins.
now.
Yeah. And crawls, he ends up crawling towards the river and falls in as we hear sirens draw near.
He's also making crazy sounds the whole time because I wrote down record press turns you into a goblin. Because he's just like,
I mean,
I've never
like crazy shit.
I've
coming out
never
of-
had half my face pressed, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. I'd probably make some odd noises.
I'm being ableist. You're right.
as a massage therapist, the position that his head was in when it went into the press, like relative to his neck, how it was all twisted, that would crush your vocal cords.
That's actually a good point because as we find out after, he can't speak anymore. So
cannot
that would make sense that's part
That's
of
really
that.
interesting.
All right. Yeah.
One of the deleted scenes in this movie is around this whole thing with him getting pressed here. There apparently the security guard was supposed to shoot him in the leg, and they didn't show all of the pressing scene, and so that kind of got cut, and we just got this cut to the outside where he's stumbling, but he does have a limp through parts of the rest of the movie. So you'll see kind of as when he first becomes the Phantom and that kind of thing, he's favoring a leg. Later on in the movie, he just kind of starts sprinting places. So
Yes.
kind of let that
Pillow
be.
sprinting.
So if you're wondering why he has a limp in certain scenes, it's because he was supposed to be shot as well as has his head melted by this press. And so he falls into the river. And then we get one of those awesome old-timey swirly newspapers. that comes at us.
I
love
fucking
those.
love that
Yeah.
shit. Yeah,
I
because
think you used to see those in these old Superman movies used to have those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of
movies.
and it's funny because depending on when the movie's made depends on how they do the effect. I'm sure there were times that it's like animated and things like that, but I know I've seen some recent things where they actually have a newspaper on like a robotic arm to and spin it like
Nice.
to get that effect, which I think is really cool. So it's interesting, stuff like that. It's always fun to see pop up.
And it tells us a couple of different things. But the big thing is that the paradise is opening, and then there is a small blurb about Winslow's death. And that also, in that little newspaper clipping, says that he was shot by security. Again,
it does.
featuring something that did happen when they shot it, does not happen in the actual finished movie.
Yeah. Winslow Leach, convicted doper.
Oh yeah, I did love that. Such a specific and odd slang to use for it. Like usually it's like they'll say convicted, of specific thing. Just to go with the slang for the language is so funny to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't use pusher, but maybe pusher's a little bit more modern.
Well, I think because he was supposed to have been using it.
Oh, he was
supposed to. They
yeah.
suspected him of being a pervert that puts on women's clothing and does heroin. Does the hair on?
Oh boy.
Now we get a POV stalking the paradise, which is of course is Winslow, because who else is it going to be? Also, you can hear his
Darth Vader.
labored breathing and yeah.
Yeah, Darth Vader breathing. Also, and I looked this up because the movie that's often credited with having, and this isn't exactly a slasher movie, but because it is Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom is a killer. Black Christmas is the movie that's often credited as having the wait, no, I'm completely wrong. Psycho is the movie that has the killer POV. Never mind, just cut this out.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Fuck it. No, just keep all my dumb shit in there. Everyone needs to know my mistake. I don't want to erase it. I'll feel disingenuous if we erase my dumbass shit. But I also think that we're about due for a break.
We sure are. Stay tuned in just a minute when Winslow takes up residence as the Phantom of the Paradise.
Haven't you heard?
What?
He's opening the paradise with it.
You're kidding.
Do I look like a kidder?
He's opening the paradise with my cantata?
Yes, isn't that great?
Gee, I wish he told me.
Do you like stabbing the stand with a hunting knife while side-eyeing the wife of your stocky?
Do you like sabotaging water slides to avenge your son?
Have you or any of your coworkers incited criminal arson upon your person?
Are you torn between two worlds, e.g. the life of a lawyer and that of a lifeguard?
Then we implore you to listen to these curated clips.
Take her under your wing. Guide her. Show her the way.
See, the great lady's always been my mistress.
Trevor Cole, shark fighter and virgin converter.
Hey, you'll pass up one victim for another one. Not in my water or anywhere. You got that?
Craig, why are you doing this to me?
Damn it, now stop it!
The poem?
Tell me the poem.
Like what? Like a power ski, man.
If any of this or that was appealing to you, then you might be Baywatched.
Coming September 25th to the Vox Crow Network.
Welcome back. It's time for us to meet our Phantom. But first, we have Winslow POV stalking his way to the paradise. He meets a couple of big dudes, big security guards that are guarding kind of the backstage area. He's scared, like they get scared off after looking at our camera, of course, because we are the Winslow in this. And they very slowly jog away. You watch these guys go for about 45 full seconds as Winslow's making his way to the stage, but they kind of trot backwards and they have to get around a car.
Yeah.
And then they're like pushing their way through this car. And my God, it was the funniest thing.
It was very much like this was two uncles. This is like two guys, like drunk uncles that they're like, can you be in this movie? And they're like, all right, you know, like they gotta squeeze by with their beer bellies. But yeah, just the athleticism was not on display with these guys. I was also surprised, and I mean, it's a movie, but like the fact that these two guys were immediately not just like, let's just kick the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
Like he's 6'4", but he's built out of twigs. So I don't know why they were so scared, but
I guess he's just that horrible, right? To gaze upon Winslow is just too much. And so our POV goes up the stairs into the backstage areas and into wardrobe, where we see Winslow picking out his outfit for the rest of the film. He makes some interesting choices.
He does.
Fantastic choices, though. He's got kind of a like a black leather
buckle suit.
Thank you. I was reaching for words, but they weren't coming. And a cape. He has what I think is an owl helmet.
I'm assuming it's the same bird that the logo is.
Oh, maybe
because
it's
later
a swan,
on we have a bunch of women in bird costumes as well that aren't
They're
the
all
same.
crows, though.
I thought they might.
And this bird looks very predatory.
Yeah,
like a hawk or something
like
like that. But it's a silver hawk mask. Essentially, is what we get.
Yeah,
that he positions in the way most people wore their baseball caps in the early 2000s, just a little off to the side.
He's only got the one eye.
Yes,
true.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite cover up all of his scarring because it only goes down to about his nose, so you can still see kind of where his cheek meets his chin, where he's got the scars there. But it covers up the worst of his new deformities, and now we get the first of many split picture scenes in this film,
which is fantastic. It's something. Just seeing it and how good it is, I was like, how have I never just seen this pop up? Even on like social media or like somebody just like pointing this out, or never seen it ever mentioned before. But it's so well done.
Maybe we'll start a new cult following.
God.
You're welcome.
So Winslow produces another dynamite bomb
out of nowhere,
as is his way.
Yeah.
And he plants this in a prop car while a surfer dude group rehearses on stage. And these guys are called the Beach Bums in the credits. It is the Juicy Fruit guys.
Yeah, in blonde wigs.
Blonde
women's wigs, though.
Yes.
They look
Yes.
like they look.
One of them has
they
a
look
bob,
like
I think.
Yeah, they were very
barrettes in
bob,
it.
but it was like the bob with the sweep that like kind of angles the jaw in the front. It was
Yeah.
they looked like an aunt on the Brady Bunch. Like all of them had, and it was the same wig on each of them.
So at this point during my first watch through, I didn't realize that this wasn't supposed to be the Juicy Fruits. I thought they were just doing a
I thought the same thing. I thought the same. I thought they were like, oh no, we got to update them, and that's why they had the weird wigs on. I thought, or maybe just like we're doing a beach theme part of the show, and they had the wigs on. That's what I thought it was. But yeah, as you said, they're a completely different band, just the same actors.
So our split scene follows both the band on stage and this prop car once he plants it. 4 girls immediately get on the trunk of this car right above the dynamite.
No, wearing
and
bikinis.
Harold, who is one of these beach bums, he doesn't want to get into the car. It almost seems like he has like some kind of feeling like something's wrong. He's got some kind of sixth sense going. Philbin is kind of strong-arming him to do it. That's kind of Philbin's role through this film, is kind of strong-arming talent to do things.
Yes.
With pills.
With pills. A lot of pills.
He just like shoves pills in the guy's mouth. But I did love that contrast of like the people performing on stage this surfer guy song to the much more realistic kind of upsetting dialogue of behind the scene, because he harasses the girl and like touches her boobs. He's forcing the guy to take the drugs, and everyone's like, there's just bullshit going on behind the scenes.
This song, by the way, that these guys are singing is about how life is all about carburetors. I just wanted to interject that because, like, what? Okay.
I think I heard that, and my brain decided that couldn't be right. Like, that couldn't be right. They couldn't be singing about life and carburetors.
Oh no, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you can confirm that.
I feel like I was paying more attention to the band side than the backstage theater side, and that's why I was like, why are they singing about carburetors so much?
So the car goes kind of across the stage, the guys get on it, and then it gets to the end of its line here. Everyone piles off, and then the bomb goes off. So it seems to go off about 15 seconds too late to kill the band, and maybe like 5 seconds too late to kill any of the girls. So nobody seems to die in this scene, at least that I could tell. But you see Swan up on his... he's got kind of a balcony thing going on. And in this scene, he almost looks concerned. He's more of like... He's like slightly bemused with a hint of concern.
There's some great zoom-ins, though.
You do,
I did love that.
Yeah. And now we cut to Swan later walking down this hallway that we'll see a lot, that is done up with mirrors and these kind of candelabras. This is all taking place, I believe, in Swanage right now,
I think
right?
so.
Yeah. Because I get Swanage and the Paradise somewhat confuzzled in my head, I think. And Swan kind of twists one of the candelabras, a mirror opens up, and we get his secret chamber, which is a very important part of the movie, or location of the movie.
It looks like Mother from the first Alien, when they would go into the central computer in the spaceship in Alien. That's what it looks like, just slightly bigger.
And Winslow is watching this, so we see that he knows where Swan's secret chamber is. And meanwhile, Swan in his chamber sees Winslow on one of his infinite security cameras.
His little peek. He's peeking over the edge.
Yeah, he's peeking over the edge of something. And then, as Swan is leaving his chamber, Winslow sweeps up and holds a knife to his throat as he comes out of that secret room. Swan recognizes him immediately. It's just like, oh yeah, I remember you.
Why, Winslow, good to see you. Been looking for you everywhere.
Typical fucking bad guy shit, where he's like, oh, I've been looking for you. We've been wondering where you are.
Yeah.
Like,
He just
oh my
casually takes his mask off.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Winslow. And Winslow hides like an old school monster and hisses at him.
Yeah, as soon as Winslow is unmasked, he immediately becomes like a mewling like kitten that can't he just like bats away at him, and it's just And so Swan immediately is kind of taking advantage of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, at this point, no conceivable way that Winslow should listen to anything that Swan says. However, as we'll see multiple times in this movie, Swan just has a way of convincing people to do things.
Yeah.
And
well, once it's for music, it seems
that really gets him.
It just he has he's giving them a pathway with which to create music, and they just can't resist.
Yeah.
It seems to be
both Winslow and Phoenix, I can think in their own ways, are really obsessed with music and with their music.
Mm-hmm.
Winslow from the composing side, and we'll see later Phoenix from the singing side. And Swan offers him the chance to do it all his way, basically, right? So he can control who sings his music. And this is, of course, a lie, but we don't know that yet. Now we get to the second audition scene. So this one done on a stage, and we get another big line of women. And Phoenix is back.
Yay!
Yeah. And
putting her faith in the system.
Yeah.
You don't see her right away, though. First you see somebody singing so off-key. It is
it's rough.
grating. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rough.
Yeah, so we have to have that one to kind of set our expectations so Phoenix can come in as our palate cleanser and be like,
Yes.
oh yeah, she's really good at singing. And she is really good at singing,
She's
just on her
very
own.
good.
But now, at first, because I think Philbin recognizes her, right? And then they have a little back and forth, her and Philbin, about how Philbin doesn't want he doesn't want singers, he wants screamers.
Yes.
And she's like, I came here to sing and everything. And Swan, from his hidden... in most of these scenes with the public, he's always back somewhere where you can't really see him. He asks, what she would give to sing. And she's like, oh, I would do anything to sing. And this is, again, one of these themes that keeps coming up between Swan and Phoenix. He asks, would you give me your voice?
Yeah, okay, Ursula.
Yes, so that's all I could think of. And we don't really get a lot of context to this, but
I think we do later. I'll talk about it when it comes up again later, but I think that
it might have been something that I missed. So
yeah, I guess I could talk about it now. Yeah. It's sort of that because he is just somebody who's trying to discern what is good, and he's not really the person making the music. He's just a person using the people, so that's why he's so willing to like, oh, well, if I bring Winslow in, then I have the source. If I bring her in, then I have this voice. And Winslow's also there at the time being like, no, make her sing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when he's saying like, give me your voice, they kind of are. They're signing themselves over to make him money.
Yeah, he's like collecting,
they're not
he's
really,
collecting parts.
Yeah, they're not really the ones who are benefiting from it. He's benefiting from it. And he owns them and abuses them. So I think that's what it means.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The themes... This movie comes back to a lot of the Faustian bargains that we're going to get to in a minute, but it also comes back to this kind of Prometheus, almost Frankenstein theme in a couple of places, where you get the show with Beef in a little bit, where he's being assembled. You get and like you just said here, where he is, and I didn't think about this before, but Swan really isn't about any one person. He is about assembling this kind of perfect show that he obsesses over. So now we get Phoenix. She finally gets to sing.
Thank God.
Finally, yeah. Now she's a very good singer, and I actually like the song here a lot. My only note here was she never looked super comfortable during this song. Like, I always felt there was someone off stage that maybe had a gun and was forcing her to do this.
I felt like she was singing at his question, will you give me your voice? And she was like, fine, here it is.
Oh, maybe.
That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
It's something like that. And they're I would assume all of the music is 80 yard. I don't know.
It is, yeah. I read that.
It is?
Yeah.
It is? Okay. So I would say there's that too. There's probably a little bit of a disconnect between how you act on the day and then how you are singing it. And maybe it doesn't always line up.
Singing, I think. They just
chose
to ADR over
but
after.
I think they had her record later as well. And I feel like that energy probably doesn't get recaptured all the
Mhm.
time. And
Yeah, she has some great moments where she mugs the camera for all of it.
oh yeah, spikes the shit out of that camera. Yeah, I noticed that as well.
She also, at the end of the thought, she dances out of the scene, like away from the thing, and then like about a second and a half later, she kind of comes back in, and I was just like, it hit me as comedic because she does this fun little dance out of the thing, and you're just like, oh, that's like the period on it. She's like, yeah, like she's not even waiting to see what she thinks because she knows she nailed it.
Yeah,
and then she kind of like walks back in as like, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite songs in the movie, I think.
Oh, for sure.
And now, so we have Phoenix. We've gotten to see her do her thing, and now we see Swan and Winslow in Winslow's audio lair.
Inventing autotune.
Inventing
autotune. That's what I said too.
I put down deepfake song.
Oh.
Because I was confused because they're playing with dials.
Yeah.
And it's they're creating a voice for the Phantom.
Yeah.
Because he can't talk. They've affixed him with this like voice box thing.
It's a very Darth Vader kind of like square black thing that sits on his chest. Yeah.
So there's this. They have like a like, what is it when people hold the like microphone thing to their throat because they smoked too much? He's got like that kind of thing on his chest, and they're filtering this through all of his audio equipment, and he's tweaking it so that it sounds like a human. The reason I put down deepfake song is because I thought he was trying to make it sound like himself, so that people would think that it's Swan singing on things. The reason is because Swan is the singing voice for the Phantom.
Yes.
I don't think that's actually a plot point. I think that is just the singing voice they create for him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if in the first scene when Winslow is singing, is that also Swan? I don't know if it is or not. It must.
I think
it must
be
thematically. It must be
because that first song was the only time, other than Beef in a little bit, where I looked at it and I was like, oh, the syncing between the vocals and like his lip syncing isn't quite there.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. The movie does seem to allude to the fact that Swan is making him sound like his singing voice.
Yeah.
In that he's like, because Swan just looks at it and he's like, it's perfect, right? And like for someone who is so
self-obsessed,
I think that was a little bit of a nod to it. It's a very cool thing though.
This room that they're in, not to like totally change the topic, but this room that they're in with all the knobs and the dials and stuff, it is an oversized, custom-built, multi-timbral, polyphonic analog synthesizer, and it has its own name. It is named Tonto. Tonto. And that means the original new timbral orchestra, and it's still around. People are still using this huge room synthesizer.
Oh my god,
that he's building him a new voice.
Old school analog synthesizers are very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I knew a guy, he's a local musician who I'm sure is controversial as hell, named Fall of Willing PA, and he is an older gentleman, and he's very, very much into older synthesizers and oscilloscopes and stuff, and I've seen some of his stuff. I've got a Betamax player that has like home editing shit on it that he gave me. He was like, I don't need this anymore, so I took it. I don't think it works, but I took it. I was like, oh yes, please. But yeah, it's a very different sound. There's there's a more modern artist who I don't know, and his name is Look Ma No Computer, and he just takes weird electronic stuff and makes what sounds like modern electronic music out of analog stuff. He made an organ out of Furbies.
Oh, that guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've seen that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He has, like, outside of the kind of sillier experimental things he does, like, he made the Furby organ, which is, you can't listen to anything on it. He's made some actually legitimately great songs. He made one called Modern Gas. So if anybody wants to hear a good song from him that has not digital electronic stuff in it, and it's very interesting, Modern Gas by Look Ma No Computer is very good.
All right. Now it's time for the contract.
Yeah. Another thick piece of paper.
Another huge stack of paper. Swan wants Winslow to rewrite his cantata in its entirety for Phoenix, right? Specifically for her voice.
Yeah.
She could be my voice now.
Could she? Really?
Yes.
Then let's get down to business.
And which is really interesting given a coming up plot point. But so Winslow at this point finally gets a shred of self-awareness and growls at him that he doesn't trust him. At which point, from somewhere under the giant synthesizer, Swan produces what is easily 600 pages of a contract.
Oh, yeah.
And
all handwritten in calligraphy.
Yes.
Like fancy calligraphy.
It also, like, not even in legalese, as we find out, like, in the most plainly stated bullshit slavery contract way.
Oh my God.
Yes. As well as having odd writing, it has some of my favorite quotes, I think, from this movie that we'll get to. Because Winslow stops several times and asks him about some of the most bullshit phrases, right? That are in this contract. And Swan just pulls shit out of his ass like, oh, that's a transportation clause.
Yeah, the one that guarantees them the right to his body and his blood and whatever. They can take it wherever they want.
Just a transportation clause.
There's one that is just like, oh, that's to protect you. Like, it's really
that
funny.
was anything not in this contract. Essentially, it was like anything not in this contract that's created later is also included.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, that's to protect you.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? Like, no, this is where you get to the point in a tragedy where I'm like, you deserve this. Fuck you.
Yeah. And to put an exclamation mark on that, just never sign anything in blood. If someone needs you to sign something in blood, don't sign that thing.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Whatever agreement you're about to enter into is not worth it.
The only time it was ever worth it was when Kiss signed the omnibus of their Kiss comic book in their own blood. That's the only time it was ever necessary.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
They must have gone through some blood to do that.
No, it was like they drew a little bit of blood from them, mixed it with the ink, and then they signed the original copy, and then all of those were printed afterwards. It's huge. It was about as thick as that contract that he signed was how Kiss collection of comics was. The other thing I want to say about this scene, because they finished doing the tweaking, and I love the effects in this where the box on his chest is plugged into the stuff. They do the tweaking, so the Swan's kind of singing voice is the Phantom singing voice. But when they unplug it, he has this like Kylo Ren pitched up like voice, and it sounds fucking awesome. It really actually does sound really good. It's not, and a lot of things in the 70s, you get like or even 80s, you get your Buck Rogers, you get your like Twiggy, and you get a really strange, shitty version of a robot voice. They could have went with something really annoying and really weird, but they actually do have a very satisfying and well done kind of robotic voice for him, which I really like.
Yeah, because he can't stay connected to the room that he's singing in, so his voice doesn't translate into the box. So his speaking voice is different because they have to unplug him from the room. And that's where we got Phoenix earlier.
Yes.
Because he kept trying. He's like, all right, say something because we'll tweak the box now a little bit because we had to unplug you. And everything that he says is just Phoenix in this weird, raspy, growling whisper.
Mm-hmm. That's how you tell that would be a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
Right,
very healthy.
He's now seen this girl 2 times in his life.
But yeah, I wrote down Kylo Ren voice is amazing, and I was trying to find a way to turn that into a pun with Kylo Ren, and I couldn't, so I put down Ben Soloist.
Okay.
Oh God,
I don't hate it. All right, so the other great thing before we get off this scene, because this scene is so good. So Swan pricks him with his little fountain pen. And Winslow foolishly signs the giant contract out after flipping through it for a minute tops.
Yes.
And
I'm going to read this. And he's like, yeah, at your leisure, read the whole thing. Asks him about the 2 most heinous shit and then signs it with his blood.
Yo. Yeah. Well, that's like me at the bank. They give me it and they're just like, no, read this over. And I'm like, I browsed through the first paragraph and I'm just like, this is a lot. This is a lot.
I remember
I'm just gonna. Please don't fuck me.
Yeah, I remember installing a computer game on the home family computer back in the day with my dad, and it was like, I don't know, some army game that I knew my dad would want to play with me. And you know where there's the terms of agreement? My dad started reading that shit. And I'm like, no, we just want to play the game. And he was like, no, wait a second. And I don't know how long it was before he gave up. Not long.
Okay.
But there was like 10 to 12 minutes of my dad starting to skim the terms of agreement thing after installing some shitty military game.
10 to 12 minutes is impressive.
I was gonna say that's
a
longer
lot.
than I would
My
do.
dad's not a reader, so let's just put it there.
So, yeah, Winslow signs in blood. Swan then produces a stamp that he rubs his blood on and stamps it with his blood stamp.
Oh, so
And
trashy.
I
Yeah.
fucking loved it so much.
It's a perfect characterization of him. Yeah.
It is.
So we move Swan back into his secret chamber, and he is watching and listening to the scene we just watched where Winslow signs his contract. And in this is the first kind of supernatural, other than the blood thing that we just did.
Yes.
The first kind of supernatural hints that we get in this movie, where his audio is all kind of twisted and very evil when
and
played
not
back.
saying what he was saying either. Not exactly.
Not exactly, right?
Yeah. It was close, but not quite.
That is a fun little hint at what's to come here. Winslow gets to work on his Cantana. His audio layer, God, I love that audio layer so much. That synthesizer. We get some fun shots of that. There's a guard to keep him in there, which I don't know that he is aware of, but he is always guarded while he is in this room, which is also kind of a secret room because there's a sliding door that leads there. There's like a regular door and then a sliding door in front of that door.
Yeah.
And it's kept locked.
When Swan leaves, he has to
he
knock
raps
to get
on the
out,
door.
and the guards let him out. We also get the fucking luxurious, thick green carpet that I was obsessed with. I wanted to rub my face on it because anytime we see Winslow working in this kind of montage or whatever, I think that's what we're at right now.
Yeah, his working montage.
When we kind of get these shots of him from the side, like playing the piano and working on it, there's sort of minimal lighting. The light's all coming from his room and spilling out into the next, but we can see this beautiful 70s shag green carpet, just so pillowy. I wanted to wrap myself up in that shit.
In both of my watch throughs and in the numerous scenes, I never once saw that carpet.
I saw it much
I'm
later.
gonna have to show you a picture of it. It's fucking amazing.
I saw it much later when he was about to be not in the room.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite parts of this scene is his room is pretty well lit. Like the walls are dark, but the room is pretty well lit, and he lights a candle in the bright room. And now he can read his papers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Now it's so much easier to read. So
Very, very akin to our last episode, The Unborn, where they had the flashlight in the well-lit
Oh my God,
room.
yes.
Oh God.
Yeah, this is a good scene because you see time passing in many ways. It passes in candles, calendars, clocks, and phoenixes. Is the four ways that time passes here. We just get the superimposed over the scene, the clocks move or the calendar moves a thing, or you just see Phoenix just looking kind of around.
Yeah. Not bursting into flame and being reborn.
Yeah.
And you get the Phantom singing over all of it. Like
yes.
His whatever he's
This was
writing.
the song I think that stuck with me the most.
Yeah.
And they play with it as well. We'll get to that scene, but they play with this song a bit, I think.
And so it's been about 3 minutes, so we're due for a Swan betrayal. And we get one here. He is sitting in his record desk.
In the middle of it.
Yeah,
How does he get in there?
He thinks Phoenix is fine, but we do get the sense that Swan is a bit of a misogynist throughout this movie. There are subtle
Just a
hints.
little.
Subtle hints. You might pick up on them. And he wants something a little bit more heavy than Phoenix. His words, not mine.
Yeah.
And we see a bunch of kind of a scene of a bunch of groups popping into existence around his table and them doing a little bit of the song and then him kind of dismissing them one by one. And they're all different styles. And then we get to beef. And my God, do I love Beef.
Gumby Rob Thomas.
Oh my God, that's a good descriptor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's like Rob Thomas made out of
Gumby.
Of Gumby.
Who's Rob Thomas?
Matchbox 20.
Yeah, it is the lead.
I can't picture the lead of Matchbox 20 on
I
my
think
own. I know Matchbox 20 song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't picture what he looks like on my own. I liked the scene of kind of getting I don't remember what all of them were. We definitely had like a Pointer Sisters kind of thing going on, which I thought they were gonna go with, but I did recently watch Little Shop of Horrors, and I was like that, but
Yes.
that though, do that. But they did not. And, but yes, I was also very satisfied with Beef.
He's got a bit of like his performance energy is a little Gene Simmons, I want to say.
It's
How would
it's
you?
a bunch of different
It's
stuff.
a bunch of
It's like Freddie Mercury. It's Gene Simmons.
It's kind of that over the top,
or maybe not Gene Simmons. The other guy, the actual lead of Kiss.
Oh,
the guy
what's
with the star on his face. I can't
Yeah,
remember his friggin'
Scarface
name.
dude.
The other guy, the one other guy that's lasted as long as Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more him, and so funny thinking back to the scene where Buddy was at the orgy thing and they kicked him out. The fact that he's in a dress. Beef is definitely dressed more femininely than he ever was.
Yeah. And so he is obviously a very different sound than Phoenix. And so Swan kind of picks him out on his table, and then we go to the airport where Swan is flying back on his private jet. One of the big things in this scene is that there are no pictures allowed, and that'll be revealed why in a little bit. And he is coming back on his private plane with Beef and Beef's supporting band, the Undeads.
Yes.
And this is where we get another one of our very superimposed
the logos. Yeah, this is where I
Yeah.
noticed it. I didn't notice it in any other scene.
You will in the Benny Hill scene of Winslow getting kicked out of Swan HQ. You'll see it there. Swan has a great little monologue here, but it ends with one of my favorite things.
Gentlemen, I give you the future. Beef.
Oh, I lost my fucking mind at that. Because they hadn't said what their name was.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was completely dumbstruck when he was like, Beef. I was just like,
and three like weird gothy dudes peek from behind this coffin.
This stand-up coffin. Now,
Yes.
I love that you mentioned that, Josh, because my brain also just tripped over itself when he said beef. Because you hear it and you're like, I know the context of that word. But please explain, movie.
Yeah.
And as an explanation, the movie gives you a silver coffin that opens up to reveal Beef growling at the audience while covered in silver, like silver paint, basically.
Yeah, I was like, he's dressed as the queen covered in glitter, basically.
Yeah, that's a perfect description.
Because he always has the little curly, tight hair kind of thing.
Tight little Greek boy curls.
This is that wraps up the airport scene. So it's just short and sweet there.
Yeah.
Swan.
And then I think we get right into Beef performing.
Almost. Because
okay.
we get Swan wakes up Winslow in his audio layer and gives him yummy breakfast pills out of a suitcase. And I don't want to skip that.
Oh God, yeah, that was upsetting. As somebody who used to do a lot of drugs and knowing what it's like to not have food in your system and just be fed more drugs, I was like, maybe sick.
It also sounded like he had drugs for every day of the week. He's like, what is it today? Thursday or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Winslow forgot what day it is. But we do learn that it's the day before the show, which is kind of the important context of this scene. And so Swan takes some papers that Winslow has finished, another part of the cantata. And he leaves and motions to some of the security guards outside. And they have a pallet of bricks.
Yeah.
And you see them start to unload those bricks with the idea being that they are going to brick up our poor Winslow in his lair.
The Phantom of Amontadillo.
Yeah. Oh, good pull.
Oh, thank you.
And so now we get to Beef, who is on stage and he's performing, and he's having some trouble with the music. Can't hit the notes.
He seems to just be screaming.
Oh,
he's screaming.
He's just doing nonsense screaming. Because I was like, when I first saw that, I thought, is this really what we're sticking with? Is this character supposed to be more of a gag? So I really wasn't expecting the character to do any singing of any kind.
Yeah.
Just from this scene.
And then he stops because he realizes, like, yeah, I can't sing this as it's written.
Yeah.
And then we hear his voice for the first time.
Oh, man.
I lost my mind. I forgot about his voice.
I wasn't expecting it. And I had the brief period in me where I was like, are we making fun of gay people with this character? And I am happy to report I don't think we are.
I don't think so.
It doesn't feel like a negatively gay-coded character.
No.
He's definitely gay.
Oh yes.
But
Very much.
At no point do I feel it's questioning his masculinity or his ability to be a rock star.
Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't really matter that he is doing this gay stuff. I shouldn't say it like that way, but well, I don't think the actor's gay. I think that's where that came from. But the way that he is outside of performing as a very theatrical gay man does not impede his ability to be this very flamboyant, to be this flamboyant rock star and stuff. So to me, I didn't feel it was a negative portrayal. Maybe there's other people that disagree.
He's not.
But I didn't think he was negative.
Outside of his performances, he's not a super over the top character outside of just his voice, right?
Yeah.
Like the voice is quite, it's that very effeminate, very stereotypical gay voice, but he tries to make reasonable decisions and is thwarted.
I was about to say, he's basically the only reasonable person.
He really is.
He is.
In this movie.
He's the only one who's just like, this shit's fucked, guys.
Yeah. God. I would watch a whole Beef behind the music if they made a fictional one, because God,
fucking heartbeat.
He's such an interesting character.
That, yeah.
And so he yells up to Swan basically like, this music was written for a chick. Like I can't hit these notes. And Swan basically tells him to just change it. Just make it your own.
He says, not Swan, but the other guy.
Philbin.
Oh, Philbin.
Philbin says, you can sing better than any bitch. Or no, is it Swan?
It's Swan that says that.
Swan says, you can sing better than any bitch. And then he says, just make it your own.
That was all before, or that was all after. He's like,
I'm not doing it in drag.
Oh,
this absolute queen doesn't want to do this show in drag. But yeah, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, so that all that happens, and he tells him, that you can make it your own. And I think Swan sort of leaves because he asks him again. He's just like, are you serious? And he's like, you heard him.
Yeah.
Because as we find out later, he very clearly changed the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
So Swan will see, we follow Swan back to Winslow's lair where he is stealing the last of the cantana from a sleeping Winslow.
Is it cantana or cantata?
It's cantata.
Okay.
I'm saying it wrong. Yeah.
You said cantana a couple times?
I think I said
and I started going in my head, and I was like, wait a second. Wait a second.
Swan leaves, and Winslow doesn't wake up, and that's when the bricking commences. And it's really funny too, because as he's leaving, you see a couple guys like mixing cement for in between the bricks, and I was think this is fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And then we go to later that night. Everyone's getting ready. Everyone's getting ready for the show. Winslow wakes up in his lair. The music is gone. He rightly assumes that Swan has taken it because he starts screaming, "Swan!"
Yeah.
Well, we also have the great scene of him like pulling the music out from under his head and like letting the pill, like slide the pills off of it, just like slowly sneaking it out.
Yeah, and the big reveal, of course, when he goes to throw open his door and there's just this brick wall. Looked like pretty sloppy brickwork to me.
Yeah.
I don't know that those guys could get a job on a site, but
Probably not. I looked at those bricks and I was like, there's no way that cement isn't still wet. He can just bust out.
And spoiler alert. Yeah.
No magic needed. No dynamite. No. We're just going to halt right through this.
Yes. Yeah. So you can hear his big scream as we transition to Beef, who is getting ready in his dressing room. And Beef thinks that the music is haunted.
Well, he hears the scream.
He hears the scream, and he's like, "What the fuck was?"
The security guard's like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, and he goes to Philbin, and this is a scene where he has a big deer antler belt on.
Yes.
Beef does, and he keeps poking Philbin in the gut, and the camera lingers on him, just like pushing his antlers into Philbin. I was like, "What are we doing here?" But also, like, keep going. I'm sure. Let's go. So, and Philbin, of course, is just, dismissive as he is with everything. And we cut back to the audio layer. The metal of the door is burst through, and the brick wall is smashed, and 2 dead guys are under the bricks. So we never see what exactly Winslow does here.
Yeah.
But he apparently turns into the Hulk for about 5 minutes and just wrecks this entire show. Transition back to Beef. He's worried, does some coke to relax, hops in the shower.
Does a lot of coke. I love it. He's got the spoon and he's just like alternating noses, like going back and forth. Because he knows, he mentions it, that he knows that he's singing somebody else's music, that they're bastardizing it. Like, so he's aware that there's
it's a dead man's music.
Yeah. So he knows there's something about it that he shouldn't be doing, and he tries to peace out.
My favorite thing about the coke is that he's like snorting it, and then he sees the cameras and he's like, "No, I'm not doing anything."
Yeah.
Like, just hides it. Like they're not already shoving pills in everybody's mouth.
Yeah. They probably gave him that coke, so it's fine. And Winslow arrives while Beef is in the shower.
Yeah.
And this is kind of our psycho shower scene here. Beef is singing along, which I think only makes Winslow more angry.
Oh, yeah.
And rips open the curtains and plunges Beef.
Well, first he cuts the curtain open with a knife, because we think we're truly getting the psycho scene, but then just sticks a plunger on his face.
And it's a POV shot, too, so all you see is Beef screams, and a plunger comes out and covers his mouth.
I cannot with that scene. I'm sorry.
No,
it is the most hilarious
needed.
thing.
It is it is easily one of the best shots.
Yeah.
Like,
and we get great eye work, great eye acting from Beef, like the true fear in his eyes as the Phantom is saying, like,
"Never sing my music again. Not here, not anywhere. Do you understand? Never again. My music is for Phoenix. Only she can sing it. Anyone else that tries dies."
And oh my god, yeah. Then we get probably the most reasonable reaction to anything in this movie. Beef decides to leave. He's leaving through the backstage in his best Mrs. Claus outfit. And he goes down, and Philbin is out hassling people in the ticket line, just making sure everyone's got their tickets. And he sees Beef kind of on the gantries that kind of lead around the building and down to where there's like a little parking spot at the back. And so he is immediately like, "Oh, I got to go deal with this shit." And they get into a wonderful exchange because Beef, not only is Beef a fantastic actor in this, but the delivery on some of his lines.
Oh my god.
Philbin confronts Beef as Beef comes down the stairs and asks him where he's going. And you remember where Beef is going.
Yes. He's like, "I'm going to see my mother in Cincinnati."
Very much delivered like that as well, yeah. And I so wanted him to get out. I was like, go Beef.
Be free, be free, Beef. Get out of here. You're too good for this place.
Beef.
Yeah.
Free range Beef, I can.
Unfortunately, Philbin, because he tells Philbin about kind of what happened, that like a creature,
Creature of the
accosted
night,
him. Creature of the
attacked
night
me
is
in
what
the
he.
shower.
Yeah.
And Philbin doesn't want to hear any of it because
Yeah,
Philbin tries to give him more pills,
Mhm.
but they're downers. And I loved that reaction where he's just like, that's going to bring me down. I was like, ooh, yeah, that would suck, especially right before you're performing.
Did getting attacked in the shower not bring you down at all? I love that.
Really though, yeah. He's like, I know drug reel from real.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he keeps accusing him of it being a hallucination.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, no, you got to get back in there. Take these downers. You didn't see that.
Yeah.
Let's perform.
Yeah, and Philbin does strong arm Beef back there. And we cut to the performance ready to start. And we get the undeads on stage, who are Beef's kind of band. And who are also the Juicy Fruits, who are also the Beach Bums. Because these guys are fantastic.
They
them so
really
much.
are. They're pulling a lot of weight in this
They
movie.
really do.
Especially where I had a lot of bias at the top, where I was like, okay, I get this is a great like opening number, but I didn't think these guys were going to have the range to just kind of disappear into those other two bands the way they did, despite looking the same, like face wise.
Yeah, and they've got a great song where they're building a Frankenstein's monster-like creature by cutting up dummies in the audience.
Yes.
And it's so much fun. The scene has so much great energy to it. The crowd, this is the first of the Paradise crowd scenes. The Paradise crowd only has one setting, and that is out of their goddamn minds.
Yeah.
They are insane.
They can't get enough of it. They're
Whatever
absolutely
happens,
bonkers. They're absolutely bonkers for it.
cannot get enough.
And I did love this. And again, going in with the well, I guess not quite the fantasy of it. The crowd is clearly in on this. And I don't know if these are people that are supposed to be plants in the crowd, because people are clearly there with like mannequin parts.
Bits, yeah.
That they kind of go in with and cut away from them, and then they come away with an arm or a leg or a whole chest from one guy. They like stab the chest. That guy clearly sitting behind a fake chest, who again is the look on his face. He just fucking can't get enough of it. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's sitting there going, they asked me to hold this part.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be me. I'd be that. I'd be that guy just smiling the whole goddamn time. I was so into this. During this section, we see Winslow holding on to like a raising bar as it's going up into the gantries and backstage. So we kind of set up where he's going to be for this. And so in the background on stage, there's an operating table where you get people kind of with these comically large, almost like knitting needle sized things, pantomiming, sewing together all of these parts that the undeads are gathering.
Yeah,
and
for the stallion they're building.
Finally, like the operating table raises up to the rafters. It's hit by this neon lightning, which we will see again shortly. And then when it comes down, we get the reveal of our Ubermensch.
Uber beef.
Uber beef. That's right.
So we get
Grade
Uber
A
beef.
at least.
And a pretty great song.
It is a good song.
Like I said, I was at times unsure if this was just supposed to be a joke character, or if we would get a good song out of them, and we do in this. I really enjoyed. The lyrics are fucking insane. Because I wrote them down. The only part I remember is that he says, getting horny and defenestrated. I'm pretty sure getting defenestrated means you're thrown out of a window.
No, that's
in fact what it
defenestrated.
What?
Defenestrated is getting thrown out of a window.
Defenestrated.
Yeah, that was a very strange set of lyrics. And there was so much groin thrusting. The most groin thrusting.
Maximum
lot,
groin
yeah.
thrusting,
Maximum groin thrusting.
Yeah, his stage presence is very. He's got a weird energy to him. I think you said it best when you said Gumby.
Yeah,
because it
Gumby
is
Rub
like
Us.
if Gumby was a hard rocker.
Yeah,
like and out of his mind on coke. I think that's about as best as I can put it. I love this. Now Winslow is the only person not having a good time tonight. He is up in the gantry and he has maneuvered himself by that blue neon lightning bolt, and it looks like he kind of like wires it so that it turns back on, and then he throws it like an angry god, smiting Beef, and it kind of lands behind Beef, or it like hits him in the back. I wasn't sure. and it electrocutes him live on stage.
Yeah,
until
right to death.
the stage bursts into flames. Like that is maximum electrocution there.
But he's engulfed. Yeah, Beef is engulfed in flames and turns into a charred corpse. But everyone's still freaking out and cheering.
Yeah,
and
it's like they think it's part of the show, or they
Yeah,
just
the crowd
don't
goes
care.
wild.
Well, I think we find out later. I don't think it mattered to them because we do find out
Clearly
later.
does not.
Like, let's get to it. Let's get to it. It's coming up.
Yeah.
Let's get to it.
So, backstage, this causes an issue, of course, because their lead has just died.
Yeah.
And so, is it Swan or is it Philbin that sends Phoenix on? I think it's Swan, right?
I don't remember.
It doesn't really matter.
It
but
sounds like something Philbin would do.
Yeah,
because Swan's really far away.
That's true. He might be in his one of his layers.
I feel like it was Philbin.
Yeah.
It doesn't
really
matter. But either way, one of them is like, you have to
to go on, yeah. And so then, of course, we get Phoenix's big song.
Mm-hmm.
And it still always looks to me like she's singing under duress just a little bit. This one makes a little bit more sense, though. She just watched a man die on stage.
Yes.
So that's... And my note for this is the audience loves her as much as they loved watching Beef die.
They do, and she seems a little surprised by it.
Yeah.
They just don't lose that energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so she does her number. It's very good. It's well received. She goes back and you know she's got that audience high, right? That performer's high. And we get, and I know there's a name for these, but it's the circle transition to the next scene where the screen narrows. You get the black that narrows into a circle.
Oh,
and then
like a Looney Tunes type thing.
it was very Looney Tunes. It's the only time it appears in the whole movie, this transition.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make
if you've
a note
ever
of it.
completed a level of Mario 3, I
Yes,
think that's
thank
what it
you.
is.
It's
Yeah.
exactly the Mario 3. Yeah. So then we transition to backstage. She's got a big bouquet of flowers from Swan. My note was, Beef's dead, but who cares? The Swan likes your name, so you don't have to change.
Yes.
Because that is one of the major thrusts of their conversation. Basically, Swan comes in, he says, you're going to be a star. He's telling her all these nice things, right?
Yeah.
And so then we get a little bit of a tonal shift for Phoenix here, because up until this point, still kind of see her, you know, she's the naive kind of stars in her eyes female lead here. But then she just says to Swan, kind of without prompting, you know, I'll do anything you want. I owe you everything. Just give me that crowd again, right?
Yes.
Like this is we see her obsession forming with that crowd.
The fame got to her.
Yeah. And Swan responds, all I want is your voice, right? He's very, again, focused on his obsessions.
Yeah, it's a little.
And then she responds, is that all? In the most suggestive tone, I think that that she could manage. And my note was just like, now she wants to sleep her way to the top. But I guess there's a difference between getting fondled by Philbin and like sleeping with like the #1 music producer in the world, right? So
it might have been supposed to be like a note about how fame changes you or something. I don't really know.
Yeah. I think the what she kind of took on there, where she gets completely enamored and addicted to that fame. Like she's just like, give me that again. You're the one who gave me that once. So like an addict, like she needs it again.
Technically is the first scene where she is in the same room as Swan. So maybe his like weird supernatural thing is working.
Yeah, he's got that charisma, right? That Riz, as the kids say, I believe.
The Riz.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. I'm so old. I apologize, audience.
It's fine.
I'll never do
I
that
had
again.
to look up what it is. It's short for charisma.
Yeah, so you got it right.
Yeah.
Some I don't have kids, so like that part of my brain hasn't gotten locked off yet. So they're like occasionally I'm able to like translate it. Like in a movie where there's the guy who like kind of knows a little bit and he can get them through. I'm like that with younger stuff, but not always.
I just spent 2 years going to school with a bunch of 20-somethings, so I usually had someone I could ask. Now I don't, so I have to look it up again. Yeah. So it was just it was very jarring to me at how quickly that turned. But I of course we only have so much time in the movie, right? We got to get places. So it was something that I wanted to mention. So she comes on to Swan. Swan is into it. they're heading back to Swanage, which is his oddly named mansion.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the car. She's gonna come in a little
somehow,
bit.
yeah.
And she leaves through the back, but there's a big mob of fans just screaming at her because they are as obsessive as everyone else in this movie is obsessive, and now they are all about her. And she gets abducted by Winslow as she turns to go the other way, who kind of pulls her up to the roof.
He beckons her over because she's...
He doesn't realize it first. Yeah.
She sees
like
the
hiding
crowd.
his cape and he's got a rose out. It's very weird.
Yeah, well, it's very phantom. It's
very
phantom.
phantom,
Yeah,
it's
so
true.
she gets sort of startled by the people kind of busting through, and her only other way to go is up a spiral staircase with the phantom, as you said, beckons her with a rose.
Yeah.
But when she gets to the stairs, he does like kind of forcibly grab her and drag her up to the roof. Because this is the other part of Swan's thing that we see is when he brings her up to the roof and he's like and it's kind of his way because he wants her to look at all of the crowd. Again, they're just losing their fucking minds as they're bringing Beef's body out. They're just like chanting. They're chanting and cheering Beef like as they're bringing it out. And Swan and this is sort of intercut with Swan noticing this, that he's just like, oh, what a show to kill the star on stage. So it's kind of feeding in again to like his discernment of like breaking down these things and now feeding into this bloodlust of worshiping and sacrificing these people that he's putting on stage, and that's what Paradise is. Like it's just these amalgamations of modern media and especially at the time going into the 70s, like they all loved it. It's very Network, to be honest. It reminded me of the movie Network, of that hyper reality of people obsessed with violence and televised violence and stuff like that.
I'd just like to say that whenever I die, I want that to happen.
Oh,
I want paramedics fighting through a crowd of people, all chanting beef. Beef. You don't have to be
So you
chanting.
don't want them to chant your name.
No.
Just beef.
No, beef.
Okay.
Just beef.
I'll keep that in mind.
So I don't know how I'm gonna make that happen, but it's my new bucket list thing. It's actually the last thing on my bucket list, very appropriately. There's a really good line here that you mentioned that kind of supports what you've just said, Josh. When Swan's in the car, the Paradise is more magnificent than I ever dreamed. And Philbin responds, "Sure. How often is a rock star fried on stage?" And Swan just looks at him and says, "Quite an attraction." He's just so excited about it, right?
Clearly a thing that they're setting up to do more than once.
Yes.
Yeah, now that he knows people are going to scream about
So
it, he's like,
up on the roof, Winslow reveals himself to Phoenix. It's like, "I'm Winslow. Remember that guy you met that one time?"
Yeah. Well, I think he says something and she notices at first, and then he unveils.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure she kind of looks at him a certain way where she's like, and then he does unveil.
Yeah, he comes on a little bit strong here, though, so he kind of freaks her out a bit.
Which is his game. He's been coming on strong since moment one. I don't know what to say about that.
So she won't have it. She leaves and goes down to the car.
Well, he's like,
"Phoenix, leave this place or I'll destroy you too."
You're crazy. Why should I go with you? Don't you hear them down there? Why should I give that up?
They want more now. They want much more. They want more than you could ever give.
I'll give them whatever they want.
and she's just freaked out by him. Clearly, like he's being a crazy person, and she goes back down to the car.
Yeah.
And then we transition to Winslow up on the roof of Swanage,
I think,
on his mansion, being a voyeur through the skylight.
Yeah,
Because sometimes this movie just goes places. You just don't ask questions about how Winslow gets places. He is good. He is good at what he does.
So I wasn't sure. Does Swan know that Winslow's there?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought, because we have Swan seems to be like looking at a mirror. We get one of these other double shots where it's like Swan seems to be, well, him and Phoenix are like going at it on a bed, or well, I should say he's just laying there spread eagle and she's attacking him.
Yes.
She's kissing
Well, they're
him
definitely making out.
furiously. But he's like looking at a mirror of himself and looking also at the footage where there's a camera on the roof behind Winslow, behind the Phantom, watching the Phantom watch them.
Yes.
So he's like watching himself star as the bull in his own cuck porn.
Yes.
And I was like, holy shit. Like it's so wild and self-indulgent.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the indulgence of it is palpable. It was crazy.
The layers of fetish here that we're getting into is Inception like.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah, because he seems to be more turned on by himself than any other aspect of what's going on. Everything else is just gravy. The cucking the Phantom, the looking and seeing himself, but it's the looking at himself seems to be the ultimate indulgence for him.
I dated a guy like that.
Oh God. Go on.
I married a guy like that.
Oh God.
Oh yeah. He had mirrors on the ceiling. It was a thing. Winslow's got big crow energy in this scene though. He's
Doesn't he?
peeking in the window with his one eye all sideways.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I don't think we've really talked much about this, but like his eye gets ruined in the press, and so he's got like this hawk mask has a blacked out section for that eye, but the other eye is all painted up. And again, he stares out of it at everybody.
And I had said the mask is always slightly askew, so like the beak doesn't ever really line up with his nose, but he does always kind of like look to one side to kind of like look at people dead on with the one eye. Yeah. It's good. It's great stuff.
One of the kind of silly little details in this scene as well is when Swan realizes that he's up there, he knows through Sixth Sense because they actually share a connection, which we'll discuss in a minute here. He goes over, like there's a remote control on the bed that has a single button.
Yes.
A single button remote control that he presses. And then one of his many CCTV television cams switches to this perspective of the camera that's on the roof. The camera that can serve no other purpose than to film him on the bed through the skylight. Like there is no...
Yes.
Yeah. But I just love that. Yeah, he loves to enjoy this. And this is another one of the movie's split screen sections as well. And... Swan really can't keep his eye, like he's not really interested, it seems like, in Phoenix at all. He can't keep his eyes off of himself and Winslow.
Yeah.
Because he sees, I mean, he really seems to get off on Winslow, like...
On Winslow's
losing
horror.
his mind out there, his horror, right? And Winslow, his response to this is finally, like, he's had enough. He can't take the heartbreak here. He pulls out his trusty knife and immediately stabs himself in the heart, releasing a torrent of the brightest red paint.
I was gonna say, the best paint blood. Yeah, very Dario Argento, like Suspiria blood.
We then go to a scene where Swan is up on the roof. He's got his umbrella, and he's very nonchalant.
He stops having sex to do this.
He does, yeah. This is more important. This is probably more pleasurable to him, honestly, at this point. And he walks over, pulls the knife out of Winslow. Winslow immediately recovers.
Yep.
And Swan casually mentions that, it's in your contract that you can't die until I say you can, or until I die.
Yeah.
Basically. And he threatens Winslow with never seeing Phoenix again unless Winslow becomes his kind of writing slave and just produces more and more works for Phoenix to write. Winslow has kind of had enough of Swan's terrible deals at this point, so he stabs Swan with the knife, but it has no seeming effect at all. Like, I don't think he even bleeds.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. And so this is kind of where we find out, though, that Swan isn't the devil, but has his own Faustian bargain as well, because he mentions that he is under contract. And during my first watch, when he stabs him, I was like, like Swan is a demon, or he is the devil, right? Like he is a supernatural creature that is tormenting Winslow. And then he's just like, oh no, like I just signed a contract first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Winslow flees, and that's where we leave this particular scene, and we go back to another swirling newspaper, but this time it's Rolling Stone magazine. On our cover of Rolling Stone magazine, we see that Swan, who again never has his picture taken, and so he is just a big question mark face, and Phoenix are getting married at the Faust finale. And my note here was, how much time has passed? Is this like the next day? But then when we see the contract videos coming up, I think it is still like either the next day or in the same week.
I think it's the same week because they seem to have done the show again, because I think there was something mentioned either on the Rolling Stone thing or soon after that I thought it implied that in the finale they had sex on stage.
Oh.
There was something in the fucking newspaper or something like that.
I didn't
It was
catch that,
something
but
like
it's
that. Yeah, that's what I thought it said, because I wrote down, I was like, did they sex on TV? Because there was something in the thing that made it sound like the next night when they did it again, they fucked on stage for the finale.
When we leave our Rolling Stone magazine, we see a car pulling up to the Paradise, and it's Swan, it's Phoenix, and Philbin. And so a couple of paparazzi or reporters go up, and they've got their cameras and things. And one of them just has the greatest delivery of a line when obviously Swan is never photographed and everything. How are we going to shoot you if you have a mask on, man? And he does it in that kind of style. I absolutely loved it. Phoenix in the back has already, we see her levels of corruption here, because she's already doing blow in the back seat. I think she's got the double spoon thing going that Beef did. So she's obviously taken to it, and Winslow emerges from his secret lair, and he breaks into Swan's chambers. So the thing where you have to pull the wall sconce and
the
thing opens.
candelabra thingy.
Yeah. And he immediately finds Swan's contract, which is in film reel form.
We get like little baby Swan.
We do.
Because apparently he was at one time some hot commodity. Also very obsessed with his image.
Yes.
And he's filming himself in a bathtub going to kill himself, where he's talking about how, like, I'm the greatest performer of all time. He's filming himself from multiple angles, and he's going to kill himself so that he can stay the age that he is forever. He's lamenting growing old and the thought of his face not being the face that he has at that time. And then that's when his fucking mirror starts talking to him.
Yes.
Creepy.
So this he immediately is just like, so you're the devil, right? And the mirror is just like, oh, I go by many names, but
which is what the fucking devil always says.
It's what the devil would say. It's exactly what the devil would say. What I really enjoyed about this was the very casual conversation that Swan and Mirror Swan have about this, where Mirror Swan basically says, well, I mean, you were going to kill yourself anyway. You're pretty much already damned. How about you just stay young forever? And it'll be great here. Passes him I think they use the same contract prop for every contract scene here, but he passes him that 600-page document. And the wonderful thing here is because Swan is in the bubble bath, right? Like it's a very silly like place to kill yourself as a bubble bath. And so he's going over it, and Swan is also kind of like just flipping through the pages, and Devil makes a reference to, your soul was already damned because you were going to slit your wrists.
Yeah.
And Swan is just like, soul, psh, whatever. And he cuts his thumb with the straight razor, and then I think he just kind of
it looked
traces
like
his name on this, which is maybe why he got the idea for the stamp that he uses later.
I think so, because that stamp of his signature is so thick, like it looks like it was written by somebody's finger.
You mean their thumb?
Yes, the thumb is a finger anatomically, says the massage therapist.
Yeah. I was a little. I wasn't at the end of it, but I was at the beginning. I was confused because I thought the way the mirror version was framing it to him was this form, the way you look will go on, but not him, almost as if the devil was going to take his place. But that's obviously not the case because it's the perpetuation and the Dorian Gray references and stuff. So I was a little confused about that, but that's not what happens. It is that he signs his contract to be young. But instead of the portrait of Dorian Gray, we get the film strip of Dorian Gray. So it seems that the filming himself all the time, he has to view new films of himself constantly in order to perpetuate. I think that's what it's set up.
I thought he had to watch the contract over and over.
That I thought was true.
Yeah.
This was a really strange one because he says picture a lot, but we never see the picture. We never get rewarded by that kind of portrait of him.
I think he means moving picture.
But he might just mean But because the weird thing though is Winslow's watching it and it doesn't seem to have aged at all, right? Like, and I would have thought that would have been what would have happened, but again, there's a lot of weirdness that goes on here.
That's true.
Loose conceptually.
Yes, I think that might be the case. So this video reel though isn't just the contract of Swan; it's both Winslow's and Phoenix's as well.
Yes.
So Winslow's we've seen already. But when we get to Phoenix's, which must have happened in the last couple of days, and again we get Swan on the thing with his real demon voice kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Phoenix is high out of her mind in this reel. Even still, she's just like, "Don't you think we're rushing things a little bit, right?" Like,
yeah.
With this whole marriage thing, and he's just like, "Sign it, and it will be legal."
Whee! And she signs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've only got so much runtime left, and this reel is just a real good guy in terms of providing us plot things. It also cuts to just a random CCTV scene of Swan, Philbin, and a dude talking on a stairway, and they're talking about assassinating Phoenix at the wedding during the rock opera.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. I said all of the words, and then my brain was like, that didn't make sense. But this is the plot.
Conceptually, he's basically Prince Humperdinking her.
He is, yeah.
Killing her on their wedding night.
Yeah. The reel ends, and we get to see the larger bank of security cameras. And it's really funny because everything gets caught on CCTV in this thing. And multiple angles of CCTV, which they very conveniently cut to. And we see on that the footage of Winslow watching the reel, from just a few seconds ago, shot in the POV of the screen, which he would have been watching because we just see his face full on. And then we also, more importantly, see the assassin setting up from a couple of different angles, which it helpfully shows us because this is the best security footage ever conceived. It provides its own jump cuts.
Which I always love that in movies. I saw the most recent Fast and Furious movie, and there's a scene where they have a character break down what's happened in the last 9 movies, and it's just him showing someone clips from all those movies, and I was like, no one was there to film that.
Where did you get
It's not even from a shitty. They don't even try to make it look like from a security camera angle. It's literally just clips from the movies, and I'm like, what is happening? It's like Spaceballs, where they do they watch Spaceballs in it.
Winslow freaks out, and he takes the TV that he had been watching the security footage and the contracts on, and throws it into... Swan's got a room that is all just film reels from his cameras. And he throws it in there, and the TV explodes, and there's a fun little cut in there when the explosion happens, and then it cuts to a fire that's clearly been going on for some time and has a bunch of debris added to it.
Ah.
that wasn't in there.
I think it's either a splicing together or they took out 2 frames.
I think so, yeah.
It just goes, it just pops into existence.
Yeah. And then we're down to the main stage of the Paradise. And this is where the shit gets a little crazy. We've got Black Swan. I thought they were black swans. They look more like crows.
They're definitely crows.
They're definitely crows.
I looked at it for a long time and eventually wrote, crow costumes.
They're very small.
Yeah,
or like lingerie
was
crow
anyone
costumes.
else not sure about those bikinis they were wearing? Because like the breast covering, like the sort of wasn't too bad, but then you get like the big like pubic hair
Yes.
The Merkins.
The Merkins. They're absolutely Merkins.
They're all crazy. Even
Yeah.
the stuff like in the breast area, it's like clearly glued on like straight to the nipples, like
Yeah.
just like tugging away. Like it's fucking weird.
It's wonderful. Yeah, the crowd is into it because, as I said, they only have one setting.
They don't stop.
They
yeah.
don't. They will not stop. They cannot be stopped. Phoenix comes out. She's dancing her weird dance again. She has this one dance that she does. She did it in her audition thing, and she's doing it here now.
It's like a choo-choo dance.
And I was just wondering, could they not have gotten her some choreography for this?
My biggest note for this movie is this, and it's that she dances like a mom who realizes she's on the Jumbotron is what she's dancing like. She's just like it's such a realization, and then just like a little like
yeah, a little back and forth, up and down.
Yeah, it's such a mom dance.
It's a very 70s leading woman dance. Or not leading woman, but like front woman of a group dance, because they didn't have a backing track. So they had to keep their diaphragm ready to sing.
Oh,
so
okay.
that little groove, that's so that they can still sing and do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
that's
Taking us to school.
Yeah. All right. So Winslow is rushing to stop the assassin. The assassin. Now,
Putting together a gun like they're in a James Bond movie.
Yes,
You
you couldn't have just brought a rifle in a rifle case? I don't know.
I mean, they should have just had someone post it up. They knew they were killing someone in their own fucking theater. Why is he so secretive about it?
Really?
What's with all the rules?
Yeah. And he's leans halfway out of the window with this gun. But the window has a clear sight to the stage. He could be halfway back in that room where no one would see the obvious gun sticking out. But I guess the crowd doesn't care, so there's really not a problem. Swan rises from the floor of the stage in a silver mask that is deeply unsettling. I found it's kind of puffy, like it's got like big cheeks and like it's
it's like a weird, both a crazy cherub mask,
yes,
but then also has the uncanny valley thing going on because it's modeled after his own face.
And aren't his glasses over top of it? Like,
yeah, they are.
His glasses over his mask.
Look, sometimes you gotta have your glasses on. And you're just like,
I've done some dumb shit to keep my glasses on going to clubs when I was younger or during Halloween. Yeah, I've done some weird dumb shit with my glasses.
I don't know why he didn't make a deal with the devil to preserve his eyesight. But anyway.
Clearly, yeah.
So Phoenix and Swan meet up on center stage for the ceremony. I should mention at this point, too, Philbin is the priest.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I was like, that was already happened, where he was like, it was in the limo, where he's like, you're gonna marry us. And he's like, oh, I've never been a priest before, or whatever the fuck he says. I also wrote down Pope shades.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has like crazy aviators on, and he's dressed like the Pope, like marrying them.
Yeah. The ceremony is about 4 sentences long because he kind of starts from where most ceremonies would typically like hit the climax.
It's the to having to hold kind of bullshit.
Do you take so and so?
It's the part where every movie thinks is the only legally binding part, despite the fact you have to walk over and sign a contract after that.
Yes.
Yeah. So the plan is to shoot Phoenix during the death do you part line, and Winslow yanks the gun as the assassin's about to shoot, and poor Philbin takes one right between the eyes.
Yes, poor Philbin.
Philbin.
Fuck that guy.
But Josh, he's such a lovable character, always looking out for
if
people.
If only John Candy
Very
had
generous.
The chance to play him to really endear us all to this character.
That's right, yeah. Chaos breaks loose on the stage. The crowd still loves it because, again, they don't seem to know or care what is or isn't real.
Yeah.
It's all a show for them. Winslow swoops down and from some kind of rope that he got somewhere. I'm not sure where, but
the same place he got the dynamite.
That's
Yeah,
true,
really.
yeah. The Acme Supply Company.
Yeah.
And he pulls off Swan's mask. Swan is melting underneath it because I assume because Winslow set fire to his secret chamber and his film is burning, and the deal with the devil stipulated that when the film goes, he goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
gotta
he
be
is
that, yeah.
he is going. He is in the process of melting.
But it also means that our Phantom dies as well. I don't know if we said that during the contract, because when he stabbed himself in the heart and he didn't die, he was like, you won't die until I die.
Yes.
But I also have another contract. So now that he is burning, melting because of the film, the wound opens up on the Phantom and he dies as well on stage.
Yeah. And Swan starts he's melting, but he still is obsessed with Phoenix's voice. This time in a much more literal sense. Because she goes over to him because she's freaked out, and she sees his melted Indiana Jones face.
Your face! What's happened to your face?
And Swan was just like, your voice, give me your voice. And he starts choking her. Winslow intervenes here. His wound is opening. He kind of knocks him to the side. Swan then is carried off because he kind of falls, but he's caught by the audience.
Yeah.
And he is carried up like a messianic figure, like arms splayed.
I wrote crowd sacrifice.
Sacrifice, yes.
That's good. I like that. That he is that, and he's just kind of carried away as he kind of melts into oblivion. Winslow here is crawling to try and get to Phoenix, who is kind of retreated back towards the crowd and toward the chairs and things. And he's bleeding from his heart. He's dying, and he's crawling along the floor. And there's people from the crowd that are like kind of like getting down and crawling with him. There's one dude in particular in a red shirt who is just getting into it. He's just like, yeah, he crawls with him.
That
and like
guy's been
Winslow's
following him
reaching
everywhere.
out, and that dude's reaching. Like it's such a performance for the crowd. He gets about 5 feet from Phoenix before he just dies on the floor. Phoenix's mind is breaking here. You can just see it.
Yeah. Distress.
Yeah, which really funny. There's right after that happens, there's a shot of Winslow like as he's collapsed. And the music in the scene, because there's like kind of club like music going on this whole scene, it ducks so hard for just a second when you hear Phoenix's voice saying Winslow. And I'm sure they added that in post because the music doesn't duck for any other part of this scene, but it does for this. And it just, I had to bring that up because it was weird. Phoenix collapses onto his body while the crowd continues to have the time of its life. Just the dude in the red, there's the dude in the red shirt that I just mentioned. He's covered in blood somehow, and he's just digging it. He rips off his shirt. He's in it. There's a guy beside him that does the same thing who is also covered in somebody's blood. And the dead bird logo on fire comes back in and closes this out. So I don't know if you guys have anything else to mention of this scene. This scene is crazy. Like nothing we do to describe. We could be here all night describing this scene, and it wouldn't do it justice.
I think that honestly is most of the movie. Like, I mean, we've talked.
You do have to watch.
We've talked quite a while about this, but it really doesn't do justice to any of the visuals of it. And like I said, it's never boring to look at. It's really always delivering on that front of being something that appears theatrical. It is driving the plot forward. Is interesting at all angles.
I have one thing to add about Red Shirt Guy.
Oh yeah, tell me more.
One of the things that happens before Swan is carried away is that Winslow grabs one of the Crow Girl's hats and stabs him with it.
Oh.
And
yes,
so
sorry
then,
for forgetting.
I forgot about that.
That is
too.
wildly crazy, and that just tells you how crazy this scene is. That I forgot that Winslow grabs someone's mask and stabs Swan like 3 times with it.
Yeah. But then Red Shirt Guy watches him take the mask, and he looks at another Crow Girl, and he's like, you can see in his mind, he's going, we can take their masks.
The gears
cool.
are turning.
So he takes one, and the girl's like, yeah, take it. You know, that's just kind of how that exchange goes. They're not saying anything, but he's like, yeah, I want one of those too. Give me that. So he's started following Winslow around already.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the main character in the sequel.
Maybe.
So, yes, utterly bizarre. Fuck. So, a couple of things that we'll add just onto the end. A lot of people in this movie, I mean, went on to other things. I mean, Beef is in lots and lots and lots of things. He's been on Star Trek. He's lots of voices and things. He's the Penguin in Batman the Animated Series.
No way.
Yeah. He was in Chopping Mall.
He's in Chopping Mall?
Yeah. I don't know where. It doesn't say.
He's one of the guys in the security room.
Oh, he's one of the technicians.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So Beef is one of the technicians in that. And then I don't know if have you ever seen the movie Chud?
I know it, but I haven't seen it.
There's a sequel you should never watch. It's called Chud 2, Bud of Chud, and he's in it, and it sucks ass.
Okay.
But he is Bud.
He's Bud, yeah.
Okay.
He is the titular character, Bud the Chud.
Yes.
But yeah, so he ended up in a lot of stuff, like to every episode of every show, Family Matters to whatever. Like he's in everything. Phoenix is in Suspiria. As I'm not sure, one of our main characters, I believe. Let me just double check on that one. She is the protagonist of Suspiria, so she is the main character of Suspiria. And Winslow, William Finley, he's in a few. I don't know if it's Tobe or Toby Hooper, the director of
Tobe, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've heard both.
That's
and
true.
From
Yeah,
and both times from not reputable sources, so I can't lean on either one. But he's in several of his like kind of offshoot, not Texas Chainsaw movies, Eaten Alive and other things like that. So you kind of go through this list of people, you see everyone cropping up all over the place. Really wasn't a cast of people that disappeared.
No. Well, the performances were all good, right? This isn't one where you're kind of laughing at.
No one's a slouch. Like even, and I was saying this earlier during like some of these audition scenes, they're all kind of giving it, even if they're intentionally being bad. There's really nobody who stands out as like a groan.
Yeah. And Swan is Paul Williams, who has scored many movies. He's actually the composer of the songs in this movie.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
He also, well, continue because you might say
he's scored a bunch of other movies. And were you going to talk about Guillermo del Toro?
No, I was going to say that he wrote fucking Rainbow Connection.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So Swan wrote Rainbow Connection.
Yeah. He wrote a lot of stuff.
Wow.
And Guillermo del Toro loved this film so much that he bought a 35mm print of it and donated it to the New Beverly Cinema so he could share it with other people. And he also loved it so much that he worked with Paul Williams for the score of Pan's Labyrinth.
That I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I love that movie.
And other people who got influenced by this musically, Daft Punk met at a screening of Phantom of the Paradise. And they watched it together 20 times.
You fucking crazy man. No shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Silver helmets and leather suits. Okay.
Yeah. I can see it now. I can see it.
All right. Final thoughts. Nathan, I'll let you start us off.
Okay, I'm going to be quick here. We've talked about this movie. We're 6 episodes in here. We've talked about this movie longer than we have talked about any other movie so far. This movie is an hour and a half. See this movie. It's fantastic. We talked about it so long because we love it. I think at this point you know how much fun we've had with this. You won't see anything else like it. I don't think there is anything else like it. The characters are great. The shots are fun. Everything about this movie hits the right notes when it should.
No pun intended.
Yeah. And that's where I'm going to keep it. Just see it. It's fantastic.
Carrie, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I brought this movie to you. I actually was expecting it to be much more of a terrible musical because I had forgotten how good the songs were. I think I've said this already. But I'm really glad that I brought it up. I loved it. I need to see it again.
I loved it as well. I made the least amount of notes for it because of the amount of times that I was just captivated by it and wanted to keep looking at it. And as I said, us talking about it this amount of time really doesn't do justice for how visually appealing it is, how sonically appealing it is, it really holds your attention, and it's worth watching. And yeah, that's all I can say. Is just if you've listened this long now, which is longer than the fucking movie, you should do yourself a favor. I hope this message gets to you back in time and you shut it off before the whole listen to this entire podcast and just watch the damn movie, because just do yourself a favor and do it.
All right. Well, that movie, it's the past. It's the old sound, Josh.
Oh,
Give us the new sound.
What's the new sound? Okay. So we're getting away because I wanted us to get away from horror. We were doing a lot of horror. There's nothing wrong with it. We're going to do lots of it. But I figure we gotta expand on our genres here of this type of film. And clearly we went a little bit that way with getting into the rock musical comedy, but still very much ingrained in horror. So we're gonna jump right into the action genre with a movie that no one's fucking heard of, but has a ridiculous budget, The Taking of Beverly Hills. So do yourselves a favor, definitely check this one out. I haven't yet, so but by the time you listen to the next episode, I will have. Clearly, I'll need to. But basic plot: guy who was supposed to go pro football didn't, finds himself in Beverly Hills during a fake gas leak where a bunch of corrupt cops plan to rob all of the houses of Beverly Hills, and this ex-football player decides, I'm gonna stop them.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay.
Get ready for the mullet tree.
You never cease to amaze with these, Josh. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us this week. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. And
hope you enjoyed our other guest, Carrie Coffin.
Thank you so much.
I know specifically the movie that we're going to have you back for, despite there being other movies we'll have you back for. But there is a very specific movie that I won't say it here now, but the reason I know of it and the reason Nathan knows of it is because you told me about it. So we'll have you back for that movie.
Now I've done that to you twice.
It's true.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great time.
Awesome. All right. Roll that clip.
Something bothering you, Beef?
Swan, this was scored for a check.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, join the cult today by subscribing and giving us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Help us grow the cult by sharing it with your friends, family, and that masked stranger hiding in your closet. Finally, you can connect with us on Facebook at The Video Cult or on Instagram and TikTok at video_cult666.